The story begins in a mansion where someone announces that he is born and is told to hurry and appraise his attribute. The maid says that the magic attribute he has will show its color on the glass sphere. The man happily announces that the baby is the second child of the Lakewood family, while his mother asks what color he will show everyone. The baby touches the sphere, and the result leaves his parents in shock. The baby narrates that his name is Kiyama Zenishi, and after graduating from high school, he became a reluctant office worker at a black business. However, after that, he speaks to a little girl dressed in white, who apologizes while saying she doesn't understand why, but it seems that he was born in the wrong world. Kayami states that it looks like he died in a traffic accident, and the child he saved at that time turned out to be a god. The girl continues to tell him that up until now, he must have lived an unfortunate life to have been rejected by a world that doesn't fit him. So that's why she'll send him to the world he was supposed to be born in, which is definitely compatible, and will be more convenient for him. Kayami narrates, and that's how his second life began in another world filled with hope. But at present, back in the mansion, the father asks why their Lakewood family gave birth to a baby with the color black. The two maids are shocked, as the first one states that the appraisal result black is a dark attribute, while the mother adds that she didn't expect their family would give birth to a demon baby. Kiyama, who is reincarnated as the baby, asks himself in shock if he's a demon. Suddenly, his father shouts that the baby is the stain of the whole family, and suggests that they should pretend it was never born. The mother agrees and says that they also have Leo, so they should say that it died when it was born, leaving Kiyama in horror, wondering if he will be killed. He wonders why this is even more unfortunate than the old world, as the father covers him with a blanket. After some time, he sees some light as a man and woman stands before him and says that he is a lovely baby. One of them says that the baby seems very smart, and the other tells him that this will be his new home, which confuses him. Kiyama wonders where he is and concludes that he was taken away in the night. He narrates that he was adopted as a child by his uncle and thinks that he's lucky to be still alive. But as baby Kiyama cries, the man asks what's wrong with him, and the woman asks if it's because the carriage was shaking all night. The woman raises the baby to her cheek as she tells him it's fine. There's nothing to be afraid of, which quiets him down. The father adds that the sun is shining again and talks about how it rained so heavily last night. He continues that it's like the sun is gracing them with meeting the baby too, and suggests naming him Kyle. He explains that in the ancient language it means sun, and asks his wife what she thinks, and doesn't it sound great? The father tells Kyle that they should take care of each other, and Kiyama narrates that just like that, his second life has turned a new page in that family with those two. 5 years later, Kyle's mother tells him that they should go, to which he replies that he's coming. In the carriage, his parents, Demio and Claire Flayfield, are waiting for Kyle, as Demio asks his wife if she forgot anything. Kyle narrates that it's a family travel day, which takes place several times a year. While going inside the carriage, he tells Elle and Max Sam that he will count on them, as he continues to narrate that they brought 2 night guardians and set off. Demio asks the chief butler to please take care of the house as he waves goodbye. Kyle states that he's 5 years old this year, so this time they went to a city farther than usual. Claire says she wonders how many years it's been since she went to Araz, and Demio tells Kyle that it's the city they will go to this time, and that they will see the sea too. Kyle happily replies that he's looking forward to it, and narrates that it's been 5 years since the night he was reborn. He grew up normally under the care of a gentle and sweet mother and father. He adds that of course he hasn't forgotten about the night of his rebirth, so he learned about this world, and about its magic. In this world, there are 8 magic attributes: water, fire, wind, thunder, ice, dark, and light, and basically, each person will have one attribute. He continues that it will reflect on the glass sphere by color, the attribute type for water being blue, and for fire being red. The appraisal is usually done right after birth, and it brings great influence to that person's fate. Kyle continues to say that his appraisal result is black. The dark attribute uses the magic of demons, and wondered if his father and mother gets to know about that, will he be abandoned again? But his mother told him that he doesn't have to worry about that color thing, which surprised him. Kyle narrates about how the two of them already knew it, and even though they knew, they still adopted him. At present, his father asked him what's wrong, stating that his face was suddenly wrinkled like he was thinking about something serious. His father smilingly asks if he was thinking about what to play in the next city, which makes Kyle excited. He laughingly replies that he's right, and thinks that remembering about what happened that night made him restless. But right now, he thinks that he is really happy now, and thanks the god for reincarnating him into this new world. Then, later at night, Kyle's father says that they will almost be there once they get out of the forest, and asks him if he's getting excited too. Kyle replies with a yes, but thinks to himself that ever since entering that forest, he has felt uneasy in his heart. He can feel that there is someone ominous ahead. Suddenly, Kyle gets a bad feeling and screams at his father to stop the carriage, making his father to ask what's wrong with him. To which Kyle scaredly replies that in front of this road, there is a fair amount of magic beasts. His father questions if it's a herd of magic beasts, while a soldier tells everyone to wait and see. Suddenly, Elle tells Max to take a detour, saying that they heard the howl of magic beasts from afar, and Max asks if it is real. Claire praises Kyle, saying that it was great of him to realize that, while Kyle is caught in his head, thinking that they are attacking humans. Suddenly, Kyle bursts out of the carriage, while Demio calls out to him in worry, but Kyle looks at him and explains that someone is being attacked, so he has to go save them. But his father asks what he's saying, while his mother orders him to get back in the carriage, since it's dangerous. But Kyle looks at them both, and apologizes for hiding that he is actually already able to use magic. And then he casts a shield of wind around the carriage. Elle gets stunned by the barrier of wind, and then Kyle knocks him off his horse by using wind bullets. He then jumps on the horse and instructs his parents and everyone to stay there. Kyle shouts that he can't just leave those who are in trouble, and rushes off in a hurry, while his parents calls his name in worry. Kyle thinks to himself that the most important thing is that he understands the feeling of being thrown away. A child who may be a demon like him, having such understanding parents who hug him like that, he will never let them be in danger. At the scene of the attack, the guard in charge orders the others to step back and set up a guard for the carriage. He asks himself if it's just an unfortunate coincidence, not normal goblins but goblin mages, forest wolf, orcs and also 3 ogres while escorting the princess. He shouts that even if he die, he must protect the carriage at all costs. As the beasts swarm around, he wonders if they are going to siege the carriage, thinking that if so, there is no way to protect everyone. But suddenly, he gets interrupted by a wind ring that slashes a monster in half. Kyle asks if that was really enough and mentions that it's his first time using it, while the knight looks at him in shock. The other guards also get shocked to see that Kyle is using wind magic, while their leader proclaims that he's still a kid. Kyle then instructs the horse to go back and starts walking towards the monsters. As the creatures close in, the lead knight thinks that this is not good, they are in complete siege. But Kyle instructs them to gather around the carriage, which confuses the guards, but the leader shouts at them to follow what Kyle said. After that, Kyle casts a light protection wall around the carriage, to which the leader shockingly wonders if he can use both wind and light magic. Kyle then rolls up his sleeves while announcing that they can fight without any worries, while the guards watched in shock. Kyle adds, but even so, he has no intention of wasting his time on the creatures, as he summons rain, to which the leader wonders just how many attributes Kyle has. Kyle then bids the creatures goodbye, as he finishes them off with thunder rain, and killed all the monsters instantly. The knights are in disbelief, and asks if Kyle has mixed water and thunder magic. After that, Kyle turns to ask them if it's done, while the captain nervously asks who he is. But suddenly, the captain is interrupted by Kyle, stating that it's not good to leave the bones of magic beasts like that, and he casts collecting illusion. The captain can't believe that he can use dark magic too, and asks himself who exactly this child is. After that, Kyle instructs everyone to please be careful as he takes off, while the captain tries to get him wait for a minute, and the princess watches him through the window. She wonders who Kyle exactly is, but before she can ask him, Kyle runs away in full speed. After some time, Kyle worriedly asks his parents if they are angry, to which they replies with of course, and asks if he knows how worried they were. Elle shouts he's glad that he is safe, but he must remember that they are there for moments like those. But Nax says he is wrong. Nax explains that he followed after Kyle-sama and saw an unbelievable scene. He mentions that they wouldn't have been the monster's opponents, but Kyle-sama used wind, water and thunder magic, and destroyed them all in a flash. His father shockingly asks how that could happen, as he tells Max that Kyle's appraisal result was definitely black, and turns to Kyle for confirmation. But Kyle nervously replies that he will explain everything when they get home about his magic power, and about the secret of the black glass sphere. At the Flayfields training center, Kyle tells his parents that he will first explain about magic. He asks them to please consider the water ball as a glass sphere. He shows them a small pouch and tells them that it is water attribute, so he will put blue in. His father gets shocked seeing that, as his mother states that the water bowl has turned into a beautiful blue. And then Kyle says that he'll go through all the other magics as well. Kyle continues to add red of fire, green of wind, brown of earth, light blue of ice, and purple of thunder. His father asked him what the other magics mean, as he continues to say that Max said there were 3 attributes, wind, water, and lightning, and his mother asks how he can use so many types of magic. Kyle tells his parents that he can use 5 as he signals with his hand, leaving his parents shocked. He then mentions that finally there are light and dark. He explains that if they mix white and black together, the color of all attributes when mixed, then the water bowl that has no color will be dyed black. Kyle tells his parents that the glass sphere was also mixed with all colors like that, and that is why it turned out to be black, like the color of the dark attribute. Demio says that he understands that Kyle can use all those attributes, and asks him when exactly he learned all those magics. To which Kyle replies that it's because he found a very interesting book in Demio's library, that he borrowed and followed it. Kyle pulls out the book to show Demio, who asks if it isn't Ryuzak's book. Demio says that he understands everything, and explains that Ryuzak was his old friend, to which Kyle says that it's great. Kyle asks if that means that his father and the author of the book know each other, as his father smiles and his mother asks if it isn't nostalgic. He explains that the book for a beginner starts with interpretation, for intermediate, it is finding a way, and for advanced level, it indicates more expansion, adding that it's a great book. Demio tells Kyle that it's a good review, and says that if only he could let the owner hear those words. But just then, he is interrupted by an announcement that they have visitors, causing Demio to ask who is it exactly at that time. The visitor says that an old friend came to visit like this, but the master puts on a face as if he was bothered, and asked if isn't that too rude. Demio recognizes the visitor, while she states that it's been a long time without seeing each other, and asks how he is, while Kyle thinks to himself that this person is an elf. He narrates that there are many races in the world, but among them, elves are very rare and have lived for a very long time. Moreover, the amount of their magic power easily overshadows any other races. Claire refers to the elf as Miluna-san and tells her that it's been a long time, while Demio asks if she came from the Great Forest, and Miluna replies that he and his wife are still so happy, and then asks about the child. Demio happily tells her that he's their son, and Claire says that the kid is really good. Miluna gets shocked to hear that, while Demio tells Kyle not to be shy, because she is the author of the book, Miluna Ryuzak. Kyle is shocked at Miluna, who states that she wrote the book so long ago, but Kyle blushingly tells her that thanks to the book, he was able to learn magic. To which she mutters that if she became so useful to others, then she is certainly happy that she wrote it, and asks Kyle if he likes magic, to which he excitedly agrees. Demio tells Miluna that his son is a genius at magic, and Claire adds that he can use a lot of different magic. But Miluna asks if that is so, to which they realizes that she is not believing them. This prompts Demio to ask if she doesn't believe him, and instruct Kyle to show her, and Claire tells him to make Miluna surprised. Miluna thinks to herself that she didn't expect those two to become such stupid parents, and asks them if that is right, ending with her accepting. She asks Kyle to show her his magic, and mentions that she will only defend, and that he can use magic to attack her with all he has, to which Kyle agrees. On the battlefield, Kyle asks how much power he should use to attack, which confuses Miluna. She then announces that she has some confidence in magic, and that she can use the magic of 3 attributes, so there's almost no magic she can't handle. And that's why she instructs Kyle to attack with his full power with the magic he's best at. Kyle replies he understands, and while preparing for the attack, he announces that he will attack with his full power, which gets Miluna's attention. She surprisingly wonders what exactly is that, as the whole atmosphere was vibrating. Kyle then commands earth, water, fire, and wind to turn into spears with that power for him, leaving Miluna surprised. She thinks to herself that he's using 4 magic attributes, but he continues to summon ice, lightning, light, and dark, commanding them to also turn into spears. Miluna is in disbelief that he can use 8 magic attributes at the same time, while Kyle commands the 8 spears with his power to combine into the strongest spear. Miluna is overwhelmed by Kyle's power, while everyone else cheers him on to attack with full power, which shocked Miluna. After that, Kyle orders the spear to pierce everything, and calls it the arrow of 8 spears. The arrow of 8 attributes is fired, to which Miluna thinks that this is not good, and tries to summon the wind spirit that made a contract with her, but realizes that there's no time left, and quickly summons Sylph, Gnome, Udine, commanding them to appear quickly and defend her. Miluna chants Wind Wall, Water Ballet, and Block Rock, and the impact causes a huge shock wave and dust. Demios says that he can't see anything and asks what happened, while Claire calls out to Kyle and Miluna-san. Miluna thinks to herself how dangerous. Thanks to the direct summoning of 3 spirits, she was able to partially block the blow just then, but she thinks about that magic power that it was too overwhelming. Suddenly, she hears Kyle say magic power arrow, and then she turned back in shock. But to her surprise, a toy arrow hits her and sticks to her forehead, and then Kyle came out from the dust. Kyle says that there is too much dust flying, so he must make the earth back to the way it was and casts wind calm. The dust clears, and everyone can see again, while Miluna thinks about Kyle with an annoying face. Back at the house, Miluna, Claire, and Demios stare at Kyle, who sits on the couch and carelessly sips his beverage. Miluna thinks to herself that if she looks at him like this, he seems like a normal child, and asks Demio and Claire again, who exactly Kyle is. After a moment of silence, they happily reply that he's their child. She understood the meaning behind their words, and promises that she won't ask about that again, and also apologizes for asking such a silly question. But Demio replies that it's okay. It's also because Kyle is a genius at magic, and that he's sure everyone will want to ask that a lot. And Claire adds that he's a good kid and works hard too, to which Miluna thinks that they are such stupid parents. Miluna tells them that about Kyle, she has an idea that she would like to suggest. She asks them if they want Kyle to attend the National Magic Academy. Kyle hears what Miluna just said and excitedly asks about the Magic Academy. She explains that it's a place to learn and improve magic. It's also a place to make friends, and a place where political power can be obtained. She asks Kyle if he wants to test his talent against other famous students gathered from all over the country in the Magic Academy. Beaming with excitement, Kyle says that he wants to go, to which Miluna looks at Demio and mutters, "Is that so?" After that, Demio happily shouts of course they'll let Kyle go if that's what he wants, and Claire adds that Kyle will definitely become the center of attention out of all the students. Kyle excitedly hugs his parents, while Miluna thinks that the two of them must be very sad right now. Miluna then tells Kyle that if so, then he will have to find a tutor until he gets into the academy. She says that up until now, noble families will have had tutors from an early age, and Kyle says that he wants her as his tutor. Miluna tries to refuse, but is interrupted by Kyle. While holding the book, he says that he learned all about magic from this. However, he still doesn't understand a lot of things, so if he could learn more about magic from anyone, then it's definitely the person who wrote this book, leaving Miluna speechless. She thinks to herself that it's right. This boy's power may be too much for others. She then tells Kyle that she understands, but even if he's her friend's child, she will be strict. Kyle stammers while saying yes and adds that he looks forward to her teaching. Then, after some years, a carriage pulls up outside the mansion. Demios, looking out through the window, announces that the carriage has come to pick Kyle up. He asks Kyle if he didn't forget anything, and his mother tells him that when he arrives, he should remember to say hello to the teachers first, to which Kyle agrees. 12-year-old Kyle Flayfield tells his mom to not worry, while Miluna thinks that time goes by so fast. Kyle came outside and asks Miluna if she came to see him off, to which she replies with of course, because today is the day her only disciple leaves. She tells him that she has taught him everything she can, and for the rest, he should just believe in himself and try his best. Kyle happily replies that thanks to her, he understands magic more deeply, and thanks her for teaching him everything about magic. As Kyle is leaving, his parents watches him with teary eyes, prompting Kyle to ask if he should cast Wind Sound Block. But Miluna says that this is not an encouragement to her disciple, and that he should listen to it as a message to someone with power. She tells him that there are many dark forces lurking in the world that cannot be seen on the surface, and those dark forces gradually become stronger and appear in many places. So she hopes that he doesn't forget this, to which Kyle agrees and promises that he will always remember it. After that, Miluna says that there is one more thing, and tells him to keep this bracelet safe, to which Kyle agrees. Suddenly, Demio interrupts them by saying, it's good for the master and disciple to say goodbye to each other, but they should not forget about them, while Claire says that's right, Miluna-san is being unfair, causing Miluna to laugh and apologize. She then tells Kyle that it's time to say goodbye to his parents. Kyle goes up to his parents but doesn't know what to say. He thinks about how they both happily accepted him, a child abandoned by his biological parents, so what he can say to them. He continues to think that they took care of him like their own child all this time, but he hasn't done anything to repay their favor, yet the both of them are still happy to see him off to school like that. He remarks that it's weird that there are so many things he wants to say. He then bursts into tears and says that for now, he can only say thank you to his parents. They burst into tears too as he thanks them for raising him until today. He hugs them and thanks them from the bottom of his heart. While leaving, Kyle thinks to himself about his mom, dad, and his master, that the things they have taught him, the love they've given to him, he will never forget them. He then wraps his thoughts up and decides to go to the National Magic Academy. The National Magic Academy. It's an academy in the royal capital that is established and run by the state. It's the best academy for magic. During its long history, the influence of this place has been enormous in all fields, training countless talents from the center of the nation to be soldiers and knights. It's a place to learn about magic, and it's also a place to show your abilities, a place where political power can be attained, and also a place to make more friends. At this moment, another person comes knocking on that place's door, and his name is Kyle Flayfield, who reflected the black color in his glass sphere. The only person in this world who can control all magic attributes. Inside the academy main hall, a lady announces to new students that they will be divided into different classes and take the tests. She tells them that there are 3 types of tests: total amount of magic power, the ability to control magic power, and the strength of magic power. She explains that these tests will decide which class one will enter from rank F to A, and mentions that at the National Magic Academy, strength is everything, and as long as they get into the upper class, their academy life will be optimal. But in case they go to the lower class, they should please try their best. She then announces that they will now conduct the test for the room in order, causing the students to talk nervously amongst themselves about the class and tests. Meanwhile, Kyle wonders what the tests will be as he thinks that he is so excited. After some time, he steps in front of the examiners who confirm his name and says that he looks forward to their teaching. They ask Kyle to put his hand on the device, leaving him in confusion. He places his hand on a strange doll and asks them if he's doing it right. The old woman tells him to just put his hand on it, and it will measure each person's magic power, adding that the higher the index is, the better it will be. Suddenly, the device lights up, which leaves all the examiners in shock, as the old woman asks what is happening, and an old man asks Kyle what he did. Kyle nervously tries to explain that he didn't do anything, while the numbers keeps increasing. The number reaches all the way up to 999,999, but then it finally shows the score being 0, and the result being F. As Kyle is leaving, the examiners tell the other students that the test machine is broken, so the test is postponed. While Kyle thinks that he really didn't do anything. In exam hall number 2, the examiner tells Kyle that next is the magic control test. The score is decided by how many are hit with magic within the time limit. He asks Kyle if he is ready, to which Kyle answers with a yes. Kyle remembers someone telling him that before he enters the academy, they have something to remind him. It's his master, who told him that even though he can use all the attributes at the academy, it's better to hide it as much as possible. In case it's not too urgent, he should just use wind magic. He thinks to himself that the target is 200 pieces. As he prepares, he measures up wind magic and thinks that he will just use that much. And as soon as Kyle begins, the examiner gets shocked by the scene. He asks what this is, the number of magic balls. Kyle thinks to himself that his target score is rank A, 200, so he decides to drop all the targets at once. After he's done dropping the targets, the examiner looks in shock, and the machine shuts down. Kyle tells the examiner that it's done, who nervously asks if he dropped them all. He asks the proctor how his score is, but the machine only counted 1. Kyle repeats the number in shock, and the proctor says that the counter receives signals when they're destroyed from those targets. He adds that maybe it was because they were all destroyed at the same time, to which Kyle says that the result in this case, but gets interrupted by the proctor. He apologizes and says that the counter's result is prioritized, meaning that Kyle got an F again. In exam hall number 3, the proctor was waiting for the student, as he tells Kyle that this will be the place to test his magic power strength. He tells Kyle to use his best magic on the golem. That attack power will be scored and displayed on the count screen on its chest. Kyle agrees with a blank look, and the proctor asks why he is making such a sad face, and tells Kyle to be determined while slapping him across his back. After that, Kyle asks if he should just attack the golem with magic, to which the proctor surprisingly thinks to himself that Kyle has such a slim body, but he wasn't startled by his slap just now. He wonders just what kind of body Kyle has, but then Kyle interrupts the proctor thoughts and asks if it is okay to use his full force. The proctor is stunned by Kyle's question, as Kyle says he's afraid that it will break, prompting the proctor to laugh and say that Kyle is worrying too much, and questions how he can destroy that golem. He tells Kyle that it's built to be strong enough to withstand even his magic, so with the magic power of children like Kyle, it's nothing, to which Kyle replies then he will trust him on that. Kyle then begins releasing his wind magic and announces that he will now begin, which shocked the proctor. He wonders what is that, this compression of magic power. Meanwhile, Kyle thinks to himself that at least he has to get good marks on one test, otherwise he will have no face to meet his master who taught him for so long. Kyle then casts Wind Fang, leaving the proctor terrified, who asks himself what that magic is, as Kyle calls it the fangs of the wind. He commands his magic to bite and then to shatter the golem into pieces. At the same time, a large rumbling is heard throughout the academy, to which someone says it looks like there has been a tremor, and someone with long hair asks if that is so. She looks out of the window and thinks to herself that is exam hall number 3. Meanwhile, back in the exam hall, the proctor has fallen to the ground and the golem is shattered into pieces. While the proctor is terrified, Kyle is curious about his strength test score, which is a bunch of question marks, and the result is unmeasurable. After some time, the proctor tells Kyle not to bother about breaking it, and says that it's almost time for the class division speech, so he should hurry and get back to the lobby, while Kyle looks very depressed. He raises his head and happily tells the proctor that he understands, and thanks him before leaving. After that, he bows at the entrance and excuses himself, while the proctor peeks out at him through the door. The proctor then tells someone to please report that the magic power counter is no longer usable, to which the person on the phone agrees. After the proctor hangs up the call and sits beside the fallen golem, a woman walks in while saying, "There was a loud explosion just now." The woman's name is Freya, who tells him that even the teacher's room heard it and that it looks interesting. She then smiles at the proctor and says she wonders what that kid is like, to which he looks at her with a smile. He tells Freya that Kyle looks like a normal kid, that some people will think that he's weak, but it is a big mistake. He mentions that even the counter is broken, so the points can't be tallied, but magic power that can destroy the golem to that extent? He has never seen this before. He says that he doesn't know how many people recognized it in the test, but that boy can only be described as a monster. Freya happily replies, if that's the case, then maybe he will be in her class, and that she's looking forward to it. Then the next day at the central hall, announcement of placement test results. Kyle thinks to himself that the result left in their memory is just as he expected, F class. But he continues to think positively, saying that at least he can acquire knowledge in any class. He wanders around while searching for class F1, saying that according to the map, it is nearby. He finds the building and goes inside while thinking that it's really different from other classes, as the floor creaks when he walks. He then sees a girl walking with a depressed look, who sits not far from Kyle. Kyle looks at her in worry and asks her if she is okay, but she tells Kyle to just ignore her. It's just that she's the daughter of a noble, but she has no talent for magic at all, and she was placed in the lowest class. The girl keeps crying, saying that it's over for her, while Kyle thinks about no talent at all. He then sees the other students arriving with gloomy faces and says that everyone looks so depressed. The girl tells him that it won't make any sense if he wasn't born in a noble family, prompting him to ask if that is so. She explains that children of nobles received magical talent education from an early age, so they should have been better in class, and yet they fell into the worst class. She adds that if it continues like this, everyone will be ashamed to face their parents and their family, to which Kyle thinks so that's it. It is said that most of the students in the academy are descendants of the royal family and nobles, so if they all fall into a bad class, it will affect the divinity of their family too. But then he thinks about how the girl said she has no talent. However, he thinks to himself that the amount of magic she possesses is definitely larger than the other girls. He then cheerfully tells her that they are both in F class now, but maybe, just like the better classes, they will also be taught by the best teachers, and then maybe she can find some new talent. The girl looks at Kyle with a surprised face as he says that she finally looked at him and introduces himself while saying he looks forward to studying with her. Suddenly, the girl stands up and nervously shouts that she is Kitty Frederick, leaving everyone a little shocked. She wonders why this person is appearing in front of her eyes again, remembering Kyle when he fought in the forests. She thinks that even though she looked for him all over the capital, she couldn't find him, and begins to describe his soft silver hair. Sparkled with soft light, as if he could see through everything, his golden eyes. She then remembers that he's the same person from 7 years ago, who saved her and her soldiers from the goblins that night. He is the one who saved her life. She asks him if he remembers her when they were young in the forest. But suddenly, she is interrupted by Freya, who yells at the students to keep silent, which gets everyone's attention. Kitty says that it's horrible, while Kyle pays attention and thinks that it's great. Freya tells the students that they all have weak spirits, that's why they ended up in F class. She tells them that she's their head teacher, Freya Arafana, and tells everyone to let's help each other. Suddenly, she gets shocked to see a student looking at her with excitement. She wonders if he's not afraid of her scream, and as she flips through her book, she realizes that it's the guy who broke the golem model. Meanwhile, Kyle thinks to himself that she put magic power into her voice. It's expected from a lecturer at the academy. Freya then asks the students about their pathetic faces and says that honestly, they are just like F class from years ago. She tells them that if they aren't satisfied, they should let her know, making the students nervously deny. She then asks if they don't like the tattered wooden campus or if they just can't stand that their family's reputation will be tarnished because they fell into F class. Freya says but there's no way, this is an academy to train elite mages, and they really are the losers in the magic world, which terrifies the students. Kitty holds back tears as Kyle watches in silence. Freya tells the students that they still have to make an effort and try to study, but they should not forget one thing. That no matter how hard they try, F class will always be the F class. Hearing that, Kyle raises his hand and asks Ms. Freya if he can say a few words. Freya asks him if he is going to object and tells him to speak his mind. To which Kyle says that he has the same opinion as her. He thinks that excellent students should obviously get more favor. Ms. Freya agrees with him, while Kitty asks herself what's wrong with him. He's fawning at the teacher, but then Kyle says that he has a question. He asks that if they can prove they're better, will the academy change the way it treats them? This leaves a sobbing Kitty puzzled, while Freya asks if he didn't listen to what she said. She states that no matter how much effort he puts into developing, the advanced classes will be doing the same, so as long as they increase their strength, there's no way they will ever catch up. Kyle asks really, to which Freya shouts of course. She says that she's seen so far, hundreds of students have had the same dream and failed. Even after going through bloody training, they still can't beat students from the advanced class. With that being said, in the magic world, talent is a prerequisite factor. Kyle thinks to himself that he's sorry. To Ms. Freya they may be the losers, while Freya says that there's no use in daydreaming and asks Kyle if he understands. But Kyle asks if that is so, and that she may be right, but that's been only until now, which gets everyone's attention. Kyle states that if that is so, they will be the first F class to break that talent order. Freya gets shocked hearing that, and thinks to herself that he shouldn't give up, she will definitely guide him. She laughs and announces that he still dares to act so defiantly in front of her. She states that it's very interesting, and if that miracle really happens, then even if she has to risk her life, she will negotiate with her superiors, which leaves Kitty and other students shocked. And then Kyle happily announces that he will look forward to her help. Then later at night, Kyle walks in the academy while thinking that this is the dormitory he will be staying in for the next 3 years. It is a wonderful building. He explores the common room and says that as expected, the furniture is also really luxurious. Suddenly, his attention is caught by the gathering of students. He sees a boy named Delia crying, while another boy named Turk is laughing at him. Delia stands up and states that he was just sitting, and asks Turk why he has to take his punch. To which Turk asks if he doesn't know, because he is in F class, so the atmosphere will be contaminated. Delia says that even if it's Class A, that's too harsh, while Turk says that he can still argue. He really needs to be re-educated, which makes Delia nervous. Suddenly, Kyle comes in between when Turk is about to throw a punch at Delia, and asks him if he is in the same class as him. Kyle happily introduces himself, and tells Delia that it's nice to meet him, to which Delia does the same. Delia then remembers that Kyle is the one who said wonderful things to Miss Freya. Suddenly, Turk says so Kyle is also in Class F and tells him and Delia to gather together so he can teach them a lesson as he throws a punch at them. But Kyle easily dodges the punch, making Turk falls to the ground. He tells Turk that it's dangerous if he suddenly swung at him, to which Turk wonders what that was and what just happened. Another student asks Turk what he is doing, telling him to not let F class show him up, to which Turk calls that annoying. Kyle then asks Turk if that is his name, to which Turk asks, "So what?" Making Kyle asks him why did he punch Delia, leaving Turk shocked. He turns to Turk and asks him why is that, to which he starts to panic, while the other students ask Turk what he's doing. Suddenly, someone places a hand on Turk's shoulder and tells him that it's fine. The person is Psyche's old delight, he is of Class 1A. Delia shockingly calls Psyche's name, saying that he is that old delight family's son, to which Kyle asks Delia if he knows him. Delia explains that when it comes to the old delight family, everyone knows that it's a great family that trains many magic swordsmen. It's said that this year, a genius from that prestigious family entered the academy. That is Psyche's old delight. Kyle thinks, so Psyche's old delight is a prestigious family's genius. Meanwhile, Psyche says that he is not complaining about F-class using that common room. The problem just now was caused by this idiot. To which Turk explains that it's not like that. But Psyche says that at the same time, there's someone using magic there and asks who that would be. The other students get surprised hearing that, as one asks if anyone realized it, to which the others disagrees. Psyche then points to Kyle and announces that he knocked him down with wind and threatened him with words containing magic power, asking Kyle if that isn't right. Everyone looks at Kyle as Psyche calls him an F-class bastard. Kyle smiles nervously and asks Psyche if he noticed that, mentioning that he was going to hide it. Suddenly, Turk shouts that using magic stealthily like that, he plays dirty and calls Kyle a bastard. Psyche tells Turk to stop it, and that he should be ashamed that he couldn't see through it, which makes Turk nervous. Skies adds that however, it's hard to believe that the skill to deceive the eyes of an elite Class A is only an F class, and asks Kyle who exactly he is. Suddenly, someone yells and tells everyone to stop it, asking what exactly that fuss is. The students look behind, and notices that it's the dormitory manager Glacia. Kyle says that it's nothing, and tells her that both of them insulted his friend, so he's just upset a little. While Delia questions if Kyle calls him his friend. Kyle says that he wants Turk to apologize to Delia, that's all, to which Turk shouts that he should be the one apologizing to him. But Glacia shouts that she will hear the story later, and tells them to calm down and go to their room. Suddenly, someone tells Glacia that it's not good, and Glacia sees that it's Freya. Freya tells her to think carefully, and asks if they aren't energetic freshmen. So does she really think that with conflict at that age, she just need to calm down, and then they can reconcile? After that, the head teacher of Class A, Baron Graymond, interrupts them by saying there's no way. He says that if they don't solve it completely, on the contrary, it will probably ignite a bigger fire, to which Glacia says that it's impossible. Freya mentions that what teacher Regit said is also true, and that there's only one thing to do. She announces that it's Kyle battling with Psyche, which shocked Turk, while Psyche remains unfazed. Kyle smiles and says that it's interesting, leaving Psyche surprised. But Turk shouts at Kyle, saying that he can't beat Sir Psyche, and someone tells him to run away. Turk tells Kyle that if he loses, he must get out of the academy, as commoners like him don't deserve to come to the academy. Delia and Kitty get shocked hearing that, and that it's impossible and is too much. But to their surprise, Kyle agrees and says that if he wins, then Psyche must go to F class, leaving everyone in shock. But Turk nervously asks if everything won't be solved if he apologizes, prompting Kyle to ask him what he is saying. Kyle says that it's common sense for Turk to apologize to Delia, and if Psyche wins, he won't apologize, and asks if that isn't weird. Psyche then asks Kyle if he means that it's a bet where Kyle will leave the academy, or he goes to F class, to which Kyle says that's right. Psyche then menacingly tells Kyle not to go back on his words, mentioning it seems that he is still misunderstanding, and asks him if he really thinks that he can win against him. Kyle confidently smiles, and says of course, leaving a lot of tension in the room. After that, Freya excitedly announces that it's decided, and instructs the audience to go to the rehearsal room. It's the battle between Class F and Class A. The opportunity to show Kyle's strength came quickly. After some time, at the indoor rehearsal ground, Kyle thinks that the battle will take place here, and wonders if this small building is okay. Suddenly, Kyle's eyes sparkles, and Regit asks him if he is surprised. He tells Kyle that the indoor rehearsal ground is the facility created by Raul Espacio, one of the founders of the Academy, also the last one to use space magic. He continues to tell Kyle that the stands were also specially created and have a feature, and that after the battle begins, the stands will be surrounded by a barrier so that magic doesn't get out. Regit says that if it is broken, it will automatically recover, calling it a perfect rehearsal ground in every way, prompting Kyle to ask if that is so. Kyle asks if they can use magic as much as they want, to which Regit says of course, and instructs him to try his best. But suddenly, Freya waves at Kyle to call him, to which he asks her what's wrong. Freya thinks that the boy will definitely use the same magic, like when he destroyed the testing golem, and wonders if he uses all of his magic, what will the hall be like, but thinks that it's really interesting, and tells Kyle to try to not get hurt, and he happily agrees. After that, Glacia orders the two of them to get on stage, as Kyle and Sykes step up. She asks the both of them if they have prepared their wands yet, to which Sykes immediately says of course. Someone from the audience asks if it's a wand, saying that he's using a magic catalyst. Regit is surprised, and thinks to himself that it's a magic sword containing a fire spirit. Of course there are people who choose swordsmen or spears as catalysts, but that rare magic sword spirit is proof of the high expectations that his family entrusts to him, and then he looks at Kyle's wand. Turk asks Kyle what that is, as another kid says that it's just a wooden stick and starts laughing. They says that it's as expected from an F-class wand, even if there's a battle, it's the same, while Sykes thinks that it's a pity, but it is true. He thinks that the quality of the wand is very important in magic battles. A good wand will increase your power by many times. But Kyle's is using just a normal stick. Sykes thinks he thought that Kyle had something, but he was just thinking too much. After that, Glacia says that she will explain the rules of the game. The stage is purely for training, so if they leave the stage, the damage they received will also be recovered. She explains that if they receive life-threatening damage, the battle will be forcibly ended, and tells them to please feel free to fight hard, prompting Kitty to ask how she can feel so carefree about that. Glacia then adds that the special condition of this battle is, if Sykes loses, he will move to F-class, and if Kyle loses, he will leave the academy. Victory is determined for one of them by either admitting defeat, unconsciousness, or stage out, or if judged as too dangerous by the referee, and then asks them if they have any questions. They both stay silent, to which she says alright. She announces that right now the magic battle with the Academy's approval between Sykes of Class A and Kyle of Class F will be held, and then she announces to begin the battle. Sky's classmates tells him to go on and give Class F a taste of their class power. Meanwhile, Delia cryingly says that because of him, everything is beyond imagination, while Kitty thinks about Kyle and worry. Sykes then powers up and announces that the bet will be decided immediately. Meanwhile, Kyle is impressed by the sword, saying that the sword is so interesting, and asks if it's a magic sword. But Sykes, while attacking him, asks how long he is going to be so carefree like that. He casts Fireball at Kyle, causing Turk to point out that masses of Fireball are aimed perfectly at Kyle. But then, Kyle points his wand in their direction, which makes Sykes shocked. Someone asks if they all missed, pointing out that it's impossible. There's no way that Sykes would make such a mistake. Sykes gets frustrated by this, and Regit thinks that it's not that Sykes missed it. It was Kyle who redirected airflow around him and deflected all the balls. He wonders about Kyle and if he's really in Class F. Sykes thinks that his fireballs didn't hit and realizes that it's because of the same magic he used on Turk. Meanwhile, Kyle says that it's interesting and asks Sykes if that's all, leaving Sykes surprised. Kyle tells him that he wants to see the power of him, not the power of the sword, thus agitating Sykes. Sykes casts Flame Storm and angrily shouts at Kyle that he can't dodge that attack. And in response, Kyle casts a Tornado, but Sykes tells him that his move is much stronger. But the whirring gets stronger, and Sykes realizes that Kyle casts Wind Chasm. Regit shockingly asks what is that? The whirlpool and fire are covering the stands. Meanwhile, Skies asks Kyle what the hell he is imitating, while Kyle says that there's a little problem, and tells everyone to let him cover their eyes. He tells Sykes that he showed him advanced magic, so he has to return the favor. He asks Sykes that if it were him, then he would use water magic to freeze it, and adds that disabling fire magic with water magic would be best choice, which confuses Skies. He asks Kyle what is he talking, because he only possesses wind magic, so he can't do anything about it. But Kyle happily replies that he just came up with the right answer to that question. Kyle announces to let him use the fire magic just like him, which makes Skies shocked. Sykes nervously asks if Kyle can use fire magic like him, and wonders if this boy can use two types of magic. To cover his true strength, Kyle used wind magic to cover the audience's view, and asks Sykes if he can still use stronger magic, to which Sykes stays silent. Meanwhile, there's a huge dome of wind magic surrounding Kyle and Sykes. Glacia says that they can't see the situation inside, and asks if they should pause the battle. But Freya comments that it's not a problem, maybe it's Kyle's trick, which confuses the other teachers. She adds that it's probably a trick to cover their eyes, to which Regid asks what exactly is that. Freya says that the only thing she can guess is that in this wind, Kyle is trying to use quite powerful magic. At the same time, Sykes thinks that of course Kyle is not a normal person, now is not the time to hide his strength, and thinks that if he hit him from this side, he can knock Kyle out. Sykes then calls out to the deer spirit residing in the magic sword, and commands it to absorb his magic power. He tells Kyle that by the name of the old Delight Marquis family, he will knock him down. With the fire rustling, Kyle stands and watches in silence as Sykes casts Flare Saber. Sykes shouts that he will burn him to ashes with the sword of hellfire, to which Kyle thinks that it's as expected, and if that's so, he has to let him see it too as he raises his hand. Sykes gets surprised and wonders if the color of the fire is gradually changing. Kyle then casts Blue Flame and says that this is the fire which he uses. Sykes shockingly thinks that Kyle's Blue Flame has more heat than his Red Flame. He says but even so, as the heir of the Marquis family, he cannot lose to Kyle there. And then he swings his flame sword at Kyle, who talks to the deer Blue Flame Wolf and tells it to swallow the attack. Sykes' sword goes flying in the air as Turk tells everyone to look, the wind is disappearing. Everyone looks with anticipation as Kyle and Sykes are revealed, with Sykes kneeling beside his broken sword. Turk shockingly calls out Sykes' name, while he grits his teeth in frustration and thinks that his strongest magic was swallowed by an unprecedented magic. Kyle then happily asks Sykes what he will show him next, to which Sykes asks himself if after using such powerful magic, Kyle is still going to continue fighting. Sykes then frustratingly replies that there is no more and accept his defeat, leaving the audience in shock and disbelief. Glacia announces that the winner is Kyle Flayfield, which makes Delia and Kitty happy. Meanwhile, Regid asks if it could be, but before he finishes, Freya thinks that destroying his magic sword is a bit too much, and calls Kyle an idiot. Sykes thinks he lost because he's too weak, but then Kyle holds his hand out to him. He welcomes Sykes to F class and says that it was a great match, so they should get stronger together. Sykes looks at Kyle in admiration and says that he didn't want to hear this, but to study together with someone strong like him. Maybe it's a good thing, and then reaches out to shake Kyle's hand. Sykes says that he hopes to learn from him, to which Kyle responds that he can help him too. Meanwhile, Turk is upset, thinking that Sykes lost so easily, and wonders who would bow to a commoner like that. At the same time, Regid says that Kyle showed great talent, and mentions that with Sykes moving, what will Class F be like from then on, to which Freya replies how she should know about that. But she excitedly announces that the next extracurricular class is definitely going to be interesting. Regid asks her what she is planning, to which she laughs and says that she's just enjoying what she sees. Meanwhile, outside the academy, a figure in a cloak asks if someone can hear the roar. He says that they were given to the world without knowing they were being controlled. He asks them to please look forward to hear this roar from the nobles screaming continuously. He announces that he will crush all their precious students, not a single one will be spared. Then the next day in class, everyone's eyes are towards Sykes, who sits across from Kyle. During the 1 Fahrenheit practice lesson, Freya tells the students that today is the first practice lesson and that they'll start with simple target aiming. Delia waves his wand with enthusiasm and tries to hit the target with a rock. He prays for the rock to hit the target, but it misses. Delia cryingly thinks that he's so pathetic that he can't even do such basic practices. Suddenly, everyone's attention is caught by Kyle and Sykes, who wave their wands, causing their magic to hit their targets. A boy says that the two of them are really cool, not to mention Sykes moved from Class A, and adds that Kyle is not inferior to him at all. He says he heard that the battle between the two of them was great, to which his friend replies, to be honest, they're on a different level from them. He finishes by saying he's scared to even get close to them, which gets Delia's attention. At the same time, Kitty casts Water Ball loudly, but the ball bursts before it could appear completely. Sykes thinks to himself that as expected, Kyle's magic sense is very sharp, Both power and accuracy are probably unmatched even by Class A, so he decides to just study with Kyle and thinks that he will definitely surpass him. He then tells Kyle that next is practicing long-range magic, but gets interrupted by someone calling Kyle. Delia tells Kyle that he couldn't use magic smoothly and asks if he can show him some tips, to which Kyle asks him if they shall do it together. He goes on to explain to Delia that shooting magic has stages while Psyche stays silent. Delia tries to use his magic again and tells Kyle that it's flying straight, to which Kyle praises him and tells him to aim at the center of the target, which catches the other students' attention. The other students then asks Kyle if he can teach them too, and he happily agrees. Seeing that, Sykes walks away in frustration, saying that he doesn't have time to play Tron, so he will practice by himself. Freya watches Sykes leave as the other students gather around Kyle, while Kitty sadly thinks just like this, she will keep getting in everyone's way. After class, at the indoor training ground, Kitty practices as she chants water ball repeatedly. She recalls Kyle saying that releasing magic is divided into 3 major stages. First is forming magic, second is adjusting the amount of magic and determining the power, and third is controlling the release of magic. And if one of these 3 stages doesn't go well, the magic will fail too. He said that if magic doesn't go smoothly, then just use magic name chanting to make up for lack of association. He also told them that if the amount of magic they use for that association is appropriate, they will definitely be able to release magic. And the amount of magic they released will bind them with a thread of magic power that cannot be seen. They just need to pay attention to transmit the magic power and control that thread. He finished off by telling them that if they paid attention to those things, they will be fine. Kitty recites to herself deep visualization of the water ball, increase power with the magic name, and then chants water ball. The water ball starts forming, to which she enthusiastically thinks that this time it will definitely go well, but it suddenly pops. Drenched in water, she wonders why everyone can do it, but only she, and starts crying. But suddenly, Kyle tells her that was such a pity, which startles her. She asks him since when has he been there, while he says that he was going to practice for a while too. He hands her a cloth and tells her to use his first, as she's soaked. She takes the cloth and thanks him while whipping herself. Kyle then takes out a donut and asks her if she wants to eat one, which confuses her. She points out to Kyle that he carries a lot of things in the basket, to which he replies that he sure does. He tells her that it's even better if there's black tea, as she asks if the warm tea is taken from the basket. After taking a sip, Kitty says that the black tea is so delicious, and Kyle tells her that it's the very famous black tea that his father's company imported. After some time, she explains to Kyle that she paid attention to his instructions and tried, but it's completely hopeless. It's true that she has no talent at all, but Kyle replies that's not true, to which she tells him not to console her, she really. But before she finishes her sentence, Kyle interrupts her to say that he is not consoling her. He really thinks that she has talent. He asks if she can do it again so that he can see her magic, to which she blushingly agrees. He tells her to calm down and give it a try, while she thinks that she doesn't want to fail in front of him. Kitty thinks about the situation, one-on-one learning with Kyle, but decides to focus and casts water ball. After that, a clear water ball forms, and Kitty thinks that she did the best ever. But suddenly, the water ball pops, which confuses Kyle. He thinks about how just now, the moment she transmitted magic power, apparently another power was working to hinder it. After some time, Kitty calls out to Kyle, who's searching through his basket, and announces that he found it. He takes out a ring and says that it looks like she hasn't mastered mana control yet. This is only a temporary measure, and asks if she could try it again and apply the tip. Meanwhile, Kitty thinks that she got a ring from Kyle by mistake, and replies that she understands. She makes a water ball again, and gets shocked to see that it didn't disappear this time, which makes her happy. Kyle then tells her to aim at the target, to which she chants water ball and sends it flying, which goes straight to the target. She happily thinks that her magic hit the target, and that it even hit a target from such a distance. She calls out to Kyle while he cheers her on, saying that she did it. But she asks him if she can practice a little more, to which Kyle replies with of course. Meanwhile, Freya watches the two of them from behind a wall and thinks that it looks like this side is fine now, and realizes that Kyle is starting to already have a lot of influence on the entire class. She continues thinking that the remaining problem is on Psyche's side. At the same time, Psyche casts a fireball, which causes a tree to catch on fire. He thinks to himself that it's not enough yet. he has to use even stronger magic without relying on the magic sword. He thinks that if it keeps going like that, he won't be able to reach the top, and thinks about the standings of this year's extracurricular lesson as the battle will take place at the Demon Forest. Hundreds of years ago, a powerful dungeon was defeated by the hands of an academy teacher. He entered the heart of that dungeon and successfully took control of it by linking with a magic item. Thanks to this great feat, a dungeon completely controlled by humans, which is very rare in the world, was born. Roget finishes his story by saying that since then, that dungeon has been used as a training ground for students, that it is the dungeon they have to conquer today. He announces that it's the magic forest, which terrifies the students. During the extracurricular classes for all first-year students, the students look horrified as they ask about the magic forest, saying that it's unbelievable because there must be very strong monsters living in there. Freya tells them not to worry. Teacher Reget said it was completely controlled by humans and tells them that firstly, they will enter the forest randomly after entering the magic circle. Furthermore, the dungeon has a mechanism that either after 6 hours from entering or when the monster boss is defeated, all the members will be forced out of the forest. And in the case of taking massive damage along the way, or even declaring withdrawal due to the shortage of magic power, they will also be pushed out of the forest. Reget holds a button and tells them that their actions will be recorded by this badge as a battle diary. If they defeat monsters, they will get extra points, and adds that the rank of this training session will be determined by that total score. And if they get first, second, and third place, they will be awarded money, magic items, or high-level medals, and tells the students to please strive to achieve them, while one student repeats money, and Kyle mutters magic items. Kyle excitedly asks what the magic items are, to which Delia mentions he's worried. It's not the time to think about that. Suddenly, someone responds to Kyle by saying that F class doesn't have to worry about it. It's Turk, who adds that it's because all of the top prizes will go to Class A. Kyle says hi to Turk and asks if he finally came to apologize, to which Turk asks who's apologizing. He thinks that the state of F class is so terrible, but notices something. He notices Sykes standing alone quietly and wonders what's wrong with him. It seems like he's not used to being isolated in the bottom of society class. He goes up to Sykes and announces that if it isn't Sir Sykes, who used to be in his class before. He continues to say there's no way that in a bet where even the magic sword was taken out, that he still lost to F class. It's surprising. He then laughingly tells Sykes that thanks to him, they ended up being looked down on as well, and asks how he is going to take responsibility. Suddenly, Sykes gazes at Turk, who asks him what's with the look and if he is going to hit him, but someone tells Turk to leave him alone. The boy named Kalura Boldenheim says that even if he was transferred to the worst class, he's still the heir to the Earl's family. Kalura adds that Sykes may not have real strength, but his position hasn't changed at all, to which Sykes calls his name. Kalura asks him if he said something that upset him, while someone else calls out to Kalura and tells him not to worsen the wound. The boy named Garden Multra adds that no matter how good the daily performance is, the fact remains he's just a weak guy. Sykes looks at the boys, while Delia tells Kyle that the top 3 have gathered, which gets Kyle's attention. Delia explains that the top 3 freshmen this year are those 3, but it seems that because of their family titles, they are not very close. Garden tells Sykes that of course, he will also aim for the top prize, and says that he's sorry. He says they will take top 1 and 2, and asks Sykes if he understands. Sykes tells them to do whatever they like, while Turk tells him that no one can save him, and calls him Sir Sykes, who is weaker than F class. Suddenly, Kyle interrupts them by coming in between, leaving everyone surprised. Kalura asks what's wrong with him, to which Kyle says nothing. He's just wondering if his friend is feeling awkward, which shocked everyone. Delia then thinks about Kyle, and that he always helps others. He then also joins Kyle, and announces that he won't be silent and let them bully his classmate. Turk laughs hearing that, says that it seems like the weak like to play the friends game. Sykes says it's enough of that silly thing, and tells them to do whatever they want, but just leave him alone. Suddenly, Freya angrily asks how long they are going to argue, as Reget instructs all of them to gather in front of the magic circle. Reget announces that the extracurricular lesson for all first-year students will begin. As the students fly off, he tells them that monsters will reappear unlimitedly, and instructs them to defeat the monsters first. After some time, a surprised Kyle lands in the forest, realizing that this is the magic forest, and says that there's that atmosphere again. He closes his eyes and starts feeling magic power. He detects that there are many monsters nearby, and also some students. He then detects a magic power and recognizes that it's Kitty. He thinks that it's a bit far from him, so he must hurry and then takes off in full speed. Meanwhile, Delia and 2 others are cornered as he thinks that it's so lucky to meet F-Class, but judging by the number of enemies, he wonders if it's the monster's lair. The first boy says that they are not their opponents, as the second one tells everyone to run away first. Delia trips and falls off as the wolf attacks him. But before the wolf could harm Delia, it bursts into flames, which startled him. He then noticed Sykes standing in front of him with his wand ready for action. Meanwhile, Kitty casts water ball and hits a wolf. Kyle says that she did a good job. She instantly hit the target, to which she happily agrees. She tells him that he really saved her and says that if Kyle hadn't come. But before she finishes, Kyle says that it's dangerous to be in the forest alone and hears screaming. He calls out to Delia in question, who calls out to him in response. After some time, Skyle asks them where Sykes is, to which they explain that Sykes said he would hold them off and instructed them to run, so they ran for their lives. Delia points in the direction and tells Kyle that in short, there are a lot of monsters. Before he finishes, Kyle takes off at full speed, thinking that he's coming, and tells Sykes to wait for him. Meanwhile, separated from his classmates, Sykes alone confronts the monsters, while Kyle rushes like an arrow to his friend. Sykes casts Fire Arrow, thinking that enemies keep coming, and realizes that if he's surrounded anymore, his chances of winning will disappear. He knows that he needs to find a weak spot to break through as he continues attacking. But suddenly, he is attacked by an orc, and the impact sent him flying. More monsters attack Sykes from behind, to which he thinks that it's not good. He gets hit from behind, as he thinks that it will end right there, and that this shame will become a laughing stock for them, as he thinks about Turk, Garden, and Kalura. He then thinks about Delia, and wonders if they all ran away yet. But suddenly, he asks himself if he's still worrying about other people. Sykes then remembers his father telling him that the heir to the Earl's family possesses eyes that see this world from a higher place than others, stronger and higher than anyone. Sykes then suddenly remembers Kyle telling him that they should get stronger together. But 2 goblins grab a hold of him as he thinks that others are just competitors, just a jumping off stone for him to reach greater heights. But ever since he met Kyle and others, there's something inside of him. He remembers Delia calling his name and thanking him while crying. He then gets hit and got sent flying. While lying injured on the ground, Sykes thinks that it's not so bad. And as the orc delivers the final blow, Sykes thinks that up to this point. But before he finishes his sentence, the orc is sent spinning away as Kyle says that it's not over yet and apologizes to Sykes for coming so late. Sykes gets shocked to see Kyle and asks him why he's there, while Kyle says it looks like he got hurt quite a lot. He then tells Sykes to leave the rest to him as he prepares to attack. As Kyle launches his attack, Sykes wonders what the hell that is that magic power wave. Kyle focuses and commands his magic to pour down on all enemies and casts Wind Arrow. Sykes watches in disbelief, thinking that he defeated so many monsters in just 1 second. He wonders about Kyle's magic power and wonders where exactly it came from. Suddenly, Delia charges in while screaming that he's fighting too. But after he looks around, he shockingly asks where the monsters are, to which Kyle says that he just defeated them. Sykes asks Delia why they came back, to which Delia apologizes and explains that as expected, leaving friend behind and running away is not a good thing to do, which shocked Sykes. Katie walks up to Sykes, holding something. She tells him that it is a healing potion, and that if he takes it, it will only take a moment for his wounds to heal. She says that she is so clumsy, so she prepared a lot for today, leaving Sykes stunned. Kyle happily says it looks like everyone was worried about Sykes, so they rushed over. In his head, Sykes thinks that even at the academy, he would still walk alone like always. He thinks that classmates are just chains, and what he needs is only strong people who can compete with him. He smiles while looking at the 3 of them and utters the word friends. He tells them that they saved him and thanks everyone with a smile. All 3 of them get shocked hearing that, while Delia thinks about the fact that Sykes smiled just now, and Kyle excitedly says alright. He says that after Sykes recovers, they will defeat the last boss and go home together, to which Katie agrees, but Delia is frightened, asking about the last boss. At the same time, at the forest center, Garden calls out to Kalura and asks if those are the last bosses. He replies with a yes and says that it can't be wrong, but thinks that it's unbelievable. He wonders if they are monsters that absorb magic. After that, the 4 from Class F arrive at the scene, and finds that the final boss is already under attack. Kyle points out that someone is already fighting, and can't believe that there are 2 boss monsters. He then points out that surrounding them are all students from Class A led by those 2, to which Sykes says that defeating the monsters is probably just a matter of time. But Kyle disagrees, saying that maybe it's not that easy, which confused Sykes. Garden and Calura are struggling to fight the monsters, while Kyle and Sykes watch. Garden strikes the monster with his axe, causing the monster to glow, to which Garden thinks to himself that it's as expected. He calls out to Calura, who confirms that it's true, they're absorbing magic power. One of their classmates tells them to not try to support each other and casts Fireball and Waterball, to which Calura calls them idiots. The beast absorbs the magic attacks, causing it to look even stronger. Calura instructs them to not release any more magic, and tells them that they're just helping the enemy recover, to which the students shockingly says that's impossible. Calura thinks, although they use wands in the form of weapons, covering the body and weapon with magic power is the only way they can fight. He thinks that if he just attacks the monsters with a normal spear, it won't be able to seriously hurt them, and the same goes for Garden's wand in the form of an axe. He wonders how they can attack these mage hunters. Meanwhile, Kyle says that he knew it, those monsters are absorbing magic power, to which Sykes says that's impossible. There's no way those monsters would be placed in the class test. Kyle asks himself if this is Miss Freya's class, but quickly realizes that she wouldn't go that far. While Sykes thinks that no matter how hard they try, if it stays like this, and then he stand up to attack. Katie calls out to Sykes, while Delia asks if he is going to save them, and reminds him that they spoke ill of him, to which Sykes replies that he's just walking on a path worthy of the old Delight family name. He says that this is his duty as the person in a higher position than them, which makes everyone happy. Kyle says that it's as expected from Sykes, but he tells him to wait a minute, as he has something to return to him. He then takes out a sword, and Sykes asks if it is his magic sword. He asks Kyle if it's already fixed, to which Kyle says that he actually planned to return it later, because it still needs finishing touches, causing Sykes to wonder about that. Sykes removes the cover, and an overwhelming flame spark from the sword. Kyle tells him that if he shares his power with the spirit dwelling in the sword, then he will be even stronger than he can imagine, leaving Sykes to think that this is huge. Kyle tells him that it's a real fire dragon, which gives off a blue flame. He says to Sykes that if he is approved by the powerful spirit, then he will definitely be able to use more firepower than ever. He further adds, it's just because it's becoming too strong, that maybe he will have some trouble too. Sykes then holds up the sword and announces to the dragon spirit that it's his weakness which made it hurt, and apologizes from his heart. He says that he is weak, but he threw away his overconfidence, so he will definitely become strong, just like it has completely transformed. He holds the sword high and asks the spirit to please let him borrow its power once more, and swear that it will continue to be with him even when he will become strong. After that, Sykes gets engulfed in the flames, with memories of him, Delia and Kyle. He thinks that he can feel it's the transformation. He asks if that is okay, and asks the spirit to lend him its strength once more. Sykes' eyes have changed into that of a dragon, while Kyle interrupts and tells him that they should go. Meanwhile, Garden is slammed against a tree trunk as Calura screams out to him. Calura tries to hold the monster back, but gets hit too, causing his classmates to call out to him in worry. Calura tells his classmates to run away, but to his surprise, they run towards him and Garden instead. One of them picks up Garden and asks what's going on, what is wrong with this class period. He asks if they couldn't have been informed before this happened, and isn't the badges for that reason. The monster then attempts to launch a strike, causing the student to think he can't believe it, this is not Class A. But luckily, the monster is intercepted by Kyle and Sykes. Sykes' former classmates are surprised to see him, as he tells them to stand back, while Kyle tells them to leave it to them. The student, while holding Calura, asks why all of them from F class are there, and grits his teeth in frustration. Calura then mustered his strength to tell them that the monsters absorb magic power, so be careful. Kyle happily replies that he knows that already and thanks him with a smile. The monster then creeps up behind Kyle and launches a sneak attack, to which Sykes calls his name in worry. Kyle then quickly throws a punch at the monster, thus knocking the monster off its feet. Everyone gets shocked seeing that, while Sykes couldn't believe that Kyle countered that attack with his bare hands. Meanwhile, in the dungeon management and control room, the teachers are in chaos because of the unusual situation, as one of them asks what's going on. Regit says that the injured students weren't moved out, and there are monsters that can absorb magic power that they had no idea about. He calls Freya and says that it looks like she planned something in this class session and asks if it could be. But before he finishes his sentence, he gets interrupted by a loud clatter. Regit shouts Freya's name as she tries to break a barrier. She says it looks like the whole garden is surrounded by a barrier, causing him to react in shock. She tells Regit that the boss she prepared was just 2 normal monsters, and that even if she was wrong, she doesn't remember setting up a monster as stupid as the magic absorption one. Glacia adds that the monster is, but before she finishes, Freya interrupts by saying that looking at this situation, there is only one answer. She says that someone has separated them from the students with a barrier, moreover, transforming the monsters. Glacia calls out to Miss Freya, saying that she will use magic to immediately force the students out, but Freya replies that she has done that countless times already. But no matter how many times she gives the order, the magic tools in the center of the forest won't react. She strikes the barrier in frustration, stating that she's really pathetic. This will be a serious mistake that will go down in the history of the academy. She then instructs teacher Regit to please keep jamming the magic tools, while she will try her best to break the barrier. Regit replies that he got it, while Freya internally apologizes to the kids. She says that in this situation, it's really selfish to have expectations from the students, but until she gets there, they should try to hold out somehow. She then sees Kyle on the screen and thinks that she will count on him. Back in the forest, the monster absorbs Kyle's attack, to which Kyle thinks that it's interesting. An attack with even a little trace of magic will be absorbed by the monster and understands that the trick is in the crystal that someone used to create monsters. Kyle thinks that he has come up with strategies, but he will fight the monsters with this. He then powers up his whole body and thinks to not let the magic get out even for a little bit. Let it move all over the muscle to the bone and strengthen the body. After that, he launches at the monster, thinking that he need to aim at the crystal. His punch breaks the crystal as he chants Storm Fist and commands it to release magic power. Delia shockingly says it's amazing. He hit it with his bare hands and defeated the monster. At the same time, Sykes too launches an attack on the monsters. He thinks that even if he hurt it with his sword, the magic helps it recover quickly. Sykes knows that his transformed sword is covered with too much magic power, and he can't reduce it to 0 right now, so he wonders what he can do. Suddenly, Kyle calls out his name and tells him that ability to absorb magic power is nothing to him right now, so just release it all. Delia confusingly asks if all magic power won't be absorbed, while Sykes commands the ability to absorb and release it at once. He says that's it, he should attack it with these hands. Meanwhile, Kyle thinks that the strategy to attack this monster first is physical attacks. If he can't defeat it by doing that, break the crystal using physics, then finish it off with magic. And for mages like them, there is still one more choice, as Sykes calls upon the spirit residing in the magic sword and tells it to absorb his magic power. Delia shouts that the blue flame is covering Sykes more and more, while Sykes commands the spirit to answer his call, telling it that they should fight together, while Kyle continues that the third answer is Magic Power Storm. Sykes casts the Magic Power Storm as Kyle finishes explaining that exceeding the absorption rate of the crystal, a hit with overwhelming magic power. Sykes then casts Flare Saber and strikes the monster with full power. Delia calls both of them amazing, since they defeated the peculiar monsters like that. Meanwhile, Kyle notices something and thinks, that is expected, it's so strange. Students who are unconscious or exhausted of magic, or even defeated by the last boss weren't moved out. Furthermore, the peculiarity of those monsters. He thinks that as expected, there is a force other than student working behind. Suddenly, Kyle turns around and blocks an attack trying to hit him. Sykes shockingly asks what was that, while Kyle thinks that his wall of wind and water was broken. After that, a figure wearing a black cloak appears, saying he was surprised by the kids, as they even managed to defeat those monsters. Kyle asks the man who he is, to which he replies that first things first, and starts casting magic. Kyle looks around and realizes that this is Shadow Barrier. The man says that even the teachers, who finally broke through the outside of the barrier, can't do anything anymore, and then tells the kids to let's get started. After that, the skeletons start coming out of the ground, as Sykes thinks that this is an army of bones. And not only that, the center of bones is giving off a source of greater miasma than ever before. The man then introduces them to the king of the zombies, the Lick King. They immediately start feeling weaker, as Katie and Delia fall to the ground. Sykes says, it looks like they got hit by the miasma that guy gave off. The The man then laughingly announces to let him hear the dying screams filled with despair of a bunch of pigs. The skeletons start moving towards Sykes, to which he grits his teeth in frustration. Just then, Kyle casts the wall of light in front of his friends, which startled them. The man in cloak also gets shocked and wonders if it's light magic. Kyle tells him he claimed to be the king of a certain country, but that has nothing to do with him, and adds that if he touches his friends even just a little, then he can't be polite with him, as he releases an enormous amount of magic. The man laughingly repeats Kyle's words and asks him what he is going to do. He says that after all, in front of this army of zombies, what can he even do? To which Kyle replies he was thinking about how he should defeat this number of enemies since a while ago, and then asks the man if he should finish it in a single shot. The man laughingly asks if he is planning to finish off all these souls in a single attempt, and mentions that he's just a kid pretending to be strong. Kyle asks him if he knows what a zombie's weakness is, and then he puts both hands on the ground and creates a huge magic circle below the skeleton army. The man gets shocked to see that Kyle created a magic circle which expanded like this in just 1 second. Kyle then looks at his friends and tells everyone to pretend that they don't see anything. He says goodbye to the monsters and casts the land of light, which wipes out all of the zombies. Delia shouts that's amazing, sweeping away the army of zombies in a second, while Katie thinks that Kyle saved them once again. Sykes watches Kyle in silence, thinking that he's still far away from him. After that, Kyle says now that he has already defeated all his servants, and asks the man what he is going to do next. Suddenly, a giant zombie hand appears from the ground, leaving Sykes shocked as it's the Lich King. He says that magic of this level doesn't work on him, to which the others get scared. The man tells Kyle that actually he was surprised with his magic earlier. Even if dozens of clerics gathered, he's not so sure light magic like that could be activated on such a large scale. But it's a pity, and says that it looks like Kyle's full body punch doesn't work on this zombie king. Delia asks if it could be that even Kyle can't defeat him, and Katie says that he's just exaggerating. Meanwhile, Sykes is speechless. In his head, he says that when a person possessing great magic power accepts death and darkness, he becomes a Lich, but there's still someone in a higher position than him. He thinks he can't believe that he unexpectedly encountered the legendary monster that can only be seen in literature here. Suddenly, Delia mentions that the forest is starting to rot, while Katie screams in fear. The man laughs loudly and tells them that they will also die slowly like that. But just then, the man gets shocked, thinking that his magic power is being sealed. Kyle tells him that he created a barrier because he doesn't want him to destroy any more of the forest. He then happily asks him if that strong magic means that he is just testing him. The man couldn't believe that Kyle is smiling in this situation, and wonders if this kid has a mental problem, but decides to show him his magic. He commands the darkness to turn into fire and burn his enemy. He explains that this is the dark fire that can't be put out until it burns everything it touches, and tells them to burn until not even bones are left. But Kyle raises his wand high in the sky, and light appears up above him. The man in the zombie king looks above and wonders what that light is. Kyle explains that he has condensed the magic power of the land of light to a single point. The man is in disbelief as he questions himself if he really does condensing magic on such a large scale into one point. The man then commands the darkness to swallow that irreverent light and casts Curse Flame. As the flame heads towards the light, Kyle casts Pillar of Light as it shoots a hole through the zombie king. Delia and Katie mentions that the dark barrier is slowly disappearing. Meanwhile, Kyle notices a dark ball on the ground rustling, so he picks it up. He says that the Lich King has disappeared and left only the nucleus. And as the man grits his teeth in frustration, Kyle says that he will ask one more time. What is he going to do next? And addresses him as Mr. Red Cape. Looking at the scene in front of him, the man wonders what exactly is happening. Light magic from the ultimate magic circle destroyed the entire zombie army in 1 second, and buried the Lich King that he brought as an ace in the hole, all with just one move. He thinks he never heard that the Academy has a monster like this. After that, Kyle asks him what he is going to do now, saying that there's no way it would end here, right? The man then smacks his hand and wonders if he's trembling. He angrily asks Kyle what his name is, to which Kyle replies that it's Kyle Flayfield, first-year student of Magic Academy. He then takes out a stone and says that he will remember that, to which Kyle realizes that it's a magic teleportation stone. Kyle thinks that he won't let him do that and casts Wind Bullet at the man. And as Kyle attempts to attack again, he gets surprised by the revelation of the man's face. He tells Kyle to remember him as he will appear in front of him again. He announces, and that time will also be his end, and then he disappeared from there. Meanwhile, Kyle wonders about the magic stone on his face. What exactly were they? But suddenly, Delia hugs Kyle from behind and thanks him for saving them, while Katie asks Kyle how she should thank him. But Kyle says it's good that everyone is safe, and then someone calls out to them. They look back and sees Freya and the other teachers running towards them, asking if they are okay. Kyle surprisingly calls her name, while Delia points out that she is hurt, to which she replies that she's fine, and is glad to know that they are all safe. Reigit then calls Kyle and says that it looks like there was another man just now, to which Kyle says that it was probably the mastermind of this incident, but he escaped, which shocked Reigit. Kyle mentions that it looks like he's also doing bad things with these monsters, which confuses Freya, and as soon as they looks at them, Reigit shockingly asks him if he defeated the magic-absorbing monsters, to which Kyle happily replies that he and Sykes defeated them. Reigit asks how exactly they did that, but Freya tells him that first, they have to save the students. Suddenly, the students start being flown out, which catches the teacher's attention. Reigit says that the forest's feature has finally recovered, as the injured students are being moved one by one. Suddenly, Sykes also starts to float, which surprises Kyle and Delia. Sykes says it looks like his magic power is also slowly running out, and apologizes for going back first. But before he could transport, Kyle grabs Sykes while telling him to wait, which surprises Katie and Delia. Delia asks Kyle what he is doing, while Reigit asks if he is resisting the escape mechanism of the forest. Kyle says that of course he'll talk to the teachers later, but a lot of things happened today. However, even in such a situation, everyone is still joined together and somehow made it through. So he thought that in the end, he really wanted to come back while talking with everyone about what happened today. He turns to Reigit and asks if they can, but Reigit angrily replies they can't, as there are still monsters in the forests. Reigit then tells Freya to contact headquarters, and then forcibly compel the remaining students to leave the forest, while Kyle tries to stop them. Freya then turns to Delia and Katie, and asks how about them, do they want to go back with Kyle? They happily replies with a yes, they wants to go back with Kyle, and if possible, they want everyone to come back together. She turns to Sykes and asks if he wants to join too, to which Sykes replies that if Kyle wasn't there today, then maybe all of them wouldn't even be alive anymore. This catches Freya's attention, as Sykes continues that the benefactor is asking to go back together, so today, he doesn't have the right to refuse it. Meanwhile, Freya surprisingly thinks that Sykes never had a gentle expression like this. Freya recalls telling Kyle that she'll count on him, even though it's just her own selfish expectation. His contribution today seems to have gone beyond her imagination. At the same time, Reigit in communication with headquarters says that's right, forced evacuation of all students, but Freya tells him to stop. She asks if it's not okay to talk about this, to which Reigit says what in confusion. Freya explains that there were so many unexpected things happening in this class today, the battle log also didn't work properly, so the battle today is invalid. All 4 students get shocked hearing that, as Delia shouts that they defeated the last boss, and Katie calls it cruel. Freya then adds that all responsibilities are of the teachers. Unfazed by all that, Reigit tells the headquarters to start the evacuation now, to which Delia shouts in frustration. But then, Reigit says however, Kyle, Sykes, Katie and Delia of Class F, those 4 will not need to be evacuated, that's all. Reigit asks them if they are satisfied now, but shouts at Freya that a teacher will have to come along, as the students hugs him, and Freya gives him a thumbs up. Kyle tells Sykes that he will lend him his shoulder, to which he instantly refuses, but Kyle protests to not say that. Kyle then tells everyone that they should go back, as he is helping Sykes with walking. Later at the academy, Freya watches Kyle and thinks, it looks like the principal wants him to recount in detail everything that happened today, so please stop by later. After reaching outside the cabin, Kyle thinks that the principal is the most talented person in this academy, and wonders what kind of person he is. He knocks on the door, and after getting the permission, he opens the door and go inside. The principal named Tarotarius, who currently holds the position of president, asks Kyle if he is there. He tells Kyle to sit down, and asks if he already knows his request. He asks Kyle how did he defeat the monsters, what happened between him and the caped man, and tells Kyle to explain everything. Kyle stutters hearing that, wondering how he should say it, because explaining and hiding the matter of light magic is really. But before he finishes, the president asks him if there's anything hard to say, to which Kyle replies that it's not like that. Suddenly, someone tells Kyle that there is no need to hide anything from this person, which startled him. He is shocked to see his master, Miluna, as she tells him that it's long time no see. Kyle shockingly asks why she is at the academy, to which the president replies that she is his old friend, and he also heard a lot about him from her. He calls him Miluna's only disciple, Kyle Flayfield, as Kyle is surprised to know that his master and the president are acquaintances. He took a sigh of relief and tells Miluna that she has to tell him something so important. He was startled, but she laughs it off. Kyle then asks his master what she is going to do today, to which she says that there is something she wants to confirm. She mentions that it's regarding the secret, the seal of this academy. Kyle asks about the seal, to which Miluna explains that she actually came there because of that investigation, but because there was another incident, she had to stay away from it. Therefore, she says that she wants him to do the investigation for her. This is her request from him. Miluna explains that deep in the basement of the academy, the magic beast is sealed by the magic chain. It used to be a dragon before. It was said that it would burn everyone who would set foot on that land. To which Kyle says a dragon sealed this academy in question, and Miluna replies that besides, something seems to be hiding there, and that's where the seal exists. It's the place where he learned, the Class F Study Hall. Kyle shockingly asks if F Study Hall is the entrance to the seal, to which Miluna replies that's right. She says that building was covered with a powerful source of magic to seal it, and that's why it's still in that condition, and can't be rebuilt. Kyle now understands that this is why it's in such bad shape. He thought that it was to tease F class, to which Miluna says, now that she thinks about it, it seems that idea fits better, while the president says that the investigation had a problem. He says that first, they need to find the entrance to the seal in the study hall, to which Kyle asks if they don't know where the entrance is. Miluna explains that the seal itself already possesses a very strong source of magic power, and the current form is only to cover the seal of the building from above. That's why, after the interdependence of two sources of magic power, the entrance moves frequently. Miluna realizes that the teachers must have been in a hurry to seal it, and Kyle asks if the dragon is that dangerous. To which Miluna replies, legend says it like that. However, when she investigated it before, she could only see it covered in miasma. The president adds, of course they don't need to worry, since it's bound by the powerful magic chain. And even in the worst case scenario, they can't let that chain weaken. And the purpose of this investigation is also to confirm that. Kyle thinks about an entrance that can be moved, and a super dragon at the end of that place. The president asks Kyle, though being the only disciple of Miluna, does he still find this difficult? But Kyle excitedly thinks that this looks interesting, and tells them to please leave it to him. The president looks stunned, as Miluna smirks proudly by Kyle's answer. The president replies he understands, and that he will entrust this investigation to him, and then he asks Kyle if they shall get back to the main point, which gets his attention. President explains that recounting today's extracurricular class, he called him there to ask about it, to which Kyle replies that's right. The president then asks Kyle what exactly has happened, and tells him not to hide anything, to which Kyle replies that he understands. After some time, the president asks Kyle if that is so, sub-level monsters, a man wearing a cape, and a skeleton king. He then stands up and tells Kyle that as the representative of the academy, he thanks him for saving the academy from crisis and bows down his head. But Kyle nervously tells him to wait a minute and says that if he bows his head like that, he'll feel uneasy. The president laughs and pops his head as he tells Kyle that he did such a great job. His muddled head will bow as many times as it takes. Besides, he wants to give him some kind of reward and asks Miluna what can make him happy. Miluna thinks for a while and says, for example, as she whispers in the president's ear, leaving him surprised. The president then declares that he, Tarotarius Iloas, the president of the Royal Magic Academy, using all his power gives Kyle the right to get his wish fulfilled once. He mentions that it's Miluna-like proposal and asks Kyle what he thinks of it. He tells Kyle not to be afraid of him, to which Kyle agrees. And then Kyle says that he will use it as desired, when he need it, which leaves the president thinking. He then tells Kyle that tomorrow he will introduce him to the teacher who is investigating the academy seal, as it will definitely help him, to which Kyle says yes and leaves the room. As Kyle walks down the corridor, Miluna watches him walking, while Ragged spies from around the corner. At the students' dormitory waiting room, Kyle calls out to his friends and waves, which makes them excited. Delia asks why did the principal call him up, and Katie asks if he was scolded by him, but Kyle replies that there is no problem. Everything is okay. To which Sykes asks what they were talking about, and Kyle says that there's a lot of things, but just then they are interrupted by someone. It's Kalura and Garden, as Garden says hello to them. Sykes asks what's wrong, to which Kalura says that they defeated those black monsters, right? To which Kyle says that he and Sykes beat them one by one, leaving both Garden and Kalura stunned. Garden shouts that there is no way. He heard people saying that, and asks if it was really true. Kalura then bows his head to thank them, saying that they saved him, which leaves everyone in shock. Kalura adds he heard that they not only saved them, but those two also helped other students evacuated. He bows his head and apologizes for being rude to them before class, and apologizes from the bottom of his heart. Kalura calls Garden, who is reluctant, but says that he knows. He then also thanks them for saving him, which leaves 4 from Class 1F shocked. Suddenly, Kyle announces that there is no need to worry, they are all teammates studying in this academy, and it's common sense to help each other, which shocks the audience. But Garden shouts that of course, and asks how they defeated those monsters. To which Kyle happily explains that he punched the monster with all his strength, and Sykes adds that he slashes it with all his strength, and that was that, which shocked Garden. He shouts at them to explain in a more understandable way, to which Kyle thinks that this way, maybe everyone can get closer. Kyle and others laugh while talking, but meanwhile, Turk irritatedly grinds his teeth in anger and then storms out of the hall. At the same time, standing on a balcony, the president thinks about Kyle, that he is an interesting child, and maybe he can expect highly of this investigation as well. He thinks that it's just the teacher he can recommend in this investigation. She's the only option right now, so he hopes that she can do well, as in the Academy Research Tower, the equipment is boiling and venting. A girl tells Miss Relisha that she is messing around like this again. She adds that she cleans up every time, and asks her to please make sure she cleans up too. But Ms. Relisha refers to the girl as Eliza, and tells her she came at the right time, as she just found a new mix, which makes Eliza curious. She tells Eliza that this is definitely the beginning of uncertain karma, and announces that she has a feeling that something amazing is about to happen. Then, one night after accepting Miluna's favor, someone asks about the Academy's secret seal in shock. Kyle tells his friends that's right, his teacher is an acquaintance of the principal, and that yesterday he was asked by the two of them to investigate the seal. Delia says that the principal himself asked for it. It's really unimaginable, as Kyle smiles brightly and asks them if they can help him with this, which shocked them. Kyle then happily announces that they should all solve the Academy's riddle together. Delia in shock asks if they're going to, and if isn't this very dangerous. But he smiles while saying it's fine. No problem at all, but Delia in horror says that he doesn't think so. Suddenly, Sykes says that it's interesting. He feels that he's stronger than before, and after the battle in the forest, he wants to test it out in combat. He tells Delia and Katie that they also overcame that deadly battle, so wouldn't it be better to have a little more confidence? Katie agrees, but says that maybe she will get in their way, but if Kyle wants it, she will participate. Delia then scratches his head and nervously adds that he will also participate. Kyle excitedly announces that the SEAL investigation team has been formed and attempts to hug his friends. But just then, Kyle notices something. He wonders if someone is talking outside the wind soundproof wall, so he undoes the spell and asks what happened. Eliza says they finally noticed her, asking if they know just how many times she has tried to talk to them. To which Kyle apologizes and says that they were having a secret discussion, which startled her. She asks if this secret conversation is related to the Academy's secret, leaving Kyle confused. She then happily mentions that she forgot to introduce herself and says that her name is Eliza, a third-year student, and she came because of a message from the alchemy professor, Relisha Neve. She asks if he is Kyle, to which Kyle says yes he is. Eliza states that the teacher is waiting at the research column and asks if he will go with her, to which Kyle says, speaking of which, the principal also said he would introduce a teacher to him and agrees to follow her. They all then start heading out, to which Eliza turns around and asks Kyle's friends if they are coming too, to which Kyle says yes and asks her if that is okay. Eliza says she thinks it will be okay, since Miss Relisha is someone who doesn't care much about such things, and on the contrary, sometimes she gets very happy because of the extra excitement. She then announces to let's go, to which Kyle thanks her while addressing her as Senior Eliza. After reaching outside, Sykes asks if this is the research column, while Delia says he didn't know that the Academy had a place like this. Eliza opens the door and says it's because few first-year students come there. Inside, Kyle shockingly says there are so many stairs and asks if they have to climb these to go up, to which Eliza tells him to not worry, as they will be taken to the top floor by the magic tower, and mentions that she will lead the way. Just then, Kyle starts walking behind Eliza and tells everyone to come on. This is very convenient, to which Delia says that Kyle is so fast. Katie says that it is really convenient, while Delia nervously tries to get on the moving stairs. Suddenly, everything starts shaking, which startled the students. Kyle asks if it's an earthquake, to which Eliza says it's fine, she has an idea. After that, she screams at Miss Religia, asking her if her experiment failed again. She opens a window while asking if didn't she tell her to not do it without her. To which Religia embarrassingly replies she thought that this time it would definitely succeed. Eliza shouts in horror that it also came with such a mess. She's been saying over and over again that there will be guests today, which gets Religia's attention. She looks at the kids in excitement and asks for what purpose did they come, to which Eliza angrily calls her name. She tells the professor that in the announcement from the principal, it definitely said that he would introduce the students to her and asks if she forgot. Religia then quickly apologizes while bowing her head, saying that she forgot and please forgive her, to which Eliza tells her to wait a minute, as that doing this is like saying she's a scary person. But Religia mentions that she is always scary, isn't she, to which Eliza shockingly calls her name. Eliza then tells her to let's clean up first, and asks everyone to please wait for a while. Kyle then takes out his wand, and says that he will give them a helping hand, and then he arranged everything neatly within seconds. Eliza and the professor get stunned to see that, while Kyle states that the books are temporarily moved to the bookshelf, and Katie tells him that the broken items are over there. Meanwhile, Eliza calls Religia, and asks what is going on. After cleaning everything, Kyle says that does it, to which Eliza shouts that she has never seen wind magic like this. Religia then leaps onto Kyle, telling him that he is so great, and asks which class is he in, if his only attribute is wind magic, and where did he learn to use magic so skillfully. But Eliza grabs her from behind, and tells her to hold back a bit, while she tells Kyle to tell her more about him. Later on, Religia embarrassingly says she was so flustered that she didn't think about anything, and she hopes that he doesn't think negatively about her. To which Kyle replies no way, as once someone is interested, he won't be able to stop. He understands that feeling very well, to which Religia gets happy. Kyle then introduces himself to Religia, and says he hopes that she can help him in this investigation, to which she agrees, and asks what investigation. And as soon as Kyle says, the Dragon Seal investigation, Religia dashes off in a hurry to search for something, while Eliza scolds her for making a mess again. Religia then takes out some books while saying that Dragon Seal is the biggest and oldest riddle in the academy, and asks Kyle if he will also participate in the mystery that she's risked her life to investigate. Kyle says that's right, to which Religia replies very well. She will then tell him everything she has investigated thus far, but in exchange, he has to give her all the information he has as well, which surprised the four of them. The previous night before Miluna left, the president tells her that the great power of darkness has finally started to move. Miluna replies that she also worry about the caped man, but what's even more serious is, as expected, there are spies in the academy. The president says that they know his purpose and asks if this is really okay, as those who want to take advantage of this opportunity will definitely take action, and this investigation will be a very dangerous mission because it's dangerous. To which Miluna says if she can't do it, then only he can, and she wants the president to believe in him. Someone who can use all attributes, the only disciple she has accepted to teach in her long life, Kyle. At present, Religia shockingly shouts after knowing that the entrance to the seal is in F study hall. Kyle replies with a yes, to which Religia says it's true that no one other than the form teacher is allowed into that school hall. Even students from other classes are also not allowed to get close. She then screams Eliza's name and tells her that it's finally time for their magic tool to be useful, to which Eliza asks if she means. But before she finishes, Religia says that's right, the final weapon of the seal investigation. Religia pits on glasses and says, exposing even the hidden secrets of ancient magic, the magic glasses. Eliza says it's been so long since she has seen that thing, but as expected, she really suits those glasses best. Kyle questions the magic glasses and asks what does that have to do with this investigation, to which Religia explains that these glasses are a magic tools, which is capable of seeing magic power, so with this, they will definitely see the hidden entrance. She says that she has been searching all over the school up until now, yet she couldn't find the entrance that's been hidden by ancient magic. But this time, the location will be detected. She tells everyone to come on, while Eliza calls her name in worry. Religia hits her head onto the wall, while Eliza mentions that it's been a while since she wore those glasses, so please be careful. Eliza then asks Religia to please lend them to her, as she will take on the role of finding the entrance. Religia tells everyone to go to the Forbidden F study hall, to which Kyle says yes in excitement. After reaching the study hall, they start looking around in every corner for a clue. Eliza says places that are used daily have no reaction and says next then, while Sykes wonders if they're a space deep in the storage area as he senses something. He lifts the wooden board and sees a dark aura coming from the opening. He quickly calls Senior Eliza, to which she turned around in surprise. And as soon as she gets inside, she sees a reaction in the magic glasses and tells everyone to come her way. Sykes states that there's a door at the end of the path, and Eliza mentions that this door has no knob or lock. Religia comes forwards while telling them not to panic, as this is a classic type of seal magic. She then points at the door and uses her magic to open it, to which Kyle says she's so great. Eliza then tells everyone that Religia is also an expert in seal magic, which shocked the kids, as Religia tells them to not flatter her. She says that finally they enter the dragon seal as she's about to walk through the door. But just then, Eliza senses something and pushed Religia out of the way. Kyle asks Eliza what happened, to which she quickly casted the wind barrier. She coughs blood as she tells everyone to stay away from the door, which shocked them. Eliza explains that it's a trap. There is poison gas overflowing from the door. But just then, Kyle reaches out and tells her he will help as well, to which she utters his name. Kyle then casts Wind Net, and the poison gets engulfed in a wind bubble. Eliza gets shocked to see that the wind net is swallowing and sweeping away the poison gas, and soon the bubble shrinks into Kyle's hand as he says that he compressed the toxic gas. He says that this is very dangerous, so he will handle it, to which Delia thinks that it's expected of Kyle, and Eliza wonders what magic is that. After that, Religia quickly hugs Eliza while apologizing and asks if she's hurt. Eliza asks how could she be injured, to which Religia points out that she vomited blood and asks what she was doing. But Eliza says she's fine, it's just a little bit of blood, while Religia sadly asks her why does she always risk her life because of her. She tells Eliza that if something happened to her body, then she won't be able to forgive herself, to which Eliza apologizes for worrying her. Religia then also apologizes to the kids, saying that she suddenly panicked again. Meanwhile, Kyle thinks that they reminds him of his master and his relationship, and then asks if it could be that the two of them have a special relationship. To which Eliza happily replies that Master Religia is both her sister and her mother. She adopted her as an orphan, always cared for her, and she sincerely raised her. She says that's why for her, she is an extremely important person. Delia and Katie starts crying hearing that, to which Eliza tells everyone to not be so deep. Kyle then apologizes for suddenly asking that, but Eliza says it's not like she wanted to hide anything. Kyle bows his head and thanks her for the quick reaction, as she saved them just now. Delia says thank you to Senior Eliza, while Katie says she brought antidote with her and Sykes says she saved them, to which Eliza says no. After some time, Elijah goes toward the door and mentions that there are stairs, to which Eliza calls her name in surprise. Kyle and Delia peek with curiosity as Kyle says that's quite deep, and Delia asks how long will it last. To which Religia replies it's obvious, speaking frankly, this is where the fantasy is waiting for them, which excites everyone. Religia tells everyone to come on, while Delia thinks that as expected, these two are so similar. At the same time, a dark figure lurks inside in silence. At the end of the stairs, the investigation team arrives at a door, and after dealing with the traps, the investigation begins. Delia asks what room is this, as Katie states that it's so spacious, and Religia says there must be a hidden entrance in the room. She tells Eliza that this space is too big for them to search, and asks her if she can use those glasses, to which Eliza replies she's on it. She says that she sees the door, to which Religia comments that was quick. Eliza says yes, but asks how she should put this, as the whole room is filled with doors. Everyone gets shocked hearing that, and Religia asks what she means by that, to which Eliza tells her to try putting the glasses on. After that, Religia screams after looking at the doors, and Eliza nervously asks what are they going to do about this. Religia replies that the documents only mention one entrance, which makes Kyle and Katie curious. Religia says that basically, there's only one door in question, so they just need to try all of them, while Eliza tells her to be careful. And as soon as Religia opens a door, a giant beast roars at her from inside. She quickly shuts the door as Eliza calls her professor with concern. Meanwhile, Sykes reaches for his sword, thinking that it looks like trouble, so he will do. But just then, he gets interrupted by Kyle, who destroyed a door with a loud thud. Skies asks Kyle what was that just now, and inquires if he can see the doors. To which Kyle nervously answers that he can make out something if he focuses closely, to which Sykes says of course, it's him after all. He says that the search will be easier than he assumed, but Kyle interrupts him. Kyle explains that the number of doors are more than 1,000, to which Delia shockingly shouts 1,000 in question. Delia asks if they search one by one, how long would that take, and wonders if the door is marked with a correct or something, which gets Kyle's attention. Katie adds that someone already passed this point, so they can too, and tells everyone to try their best. Meanwhile, Kyle thinks about the mark and someone overcame this, and then realizes something. He excitedly shouts that's it. He thinks that he can find it now with their help, which confuses Katie and Delia. Kyle says that the last person who found the correct door was Master Miluna, so he can follow her by tracing her magic. Eliza looks through the glasses and wonders if his magic number is increasing. Religia asks Eliza what's wrong, to which she shockingly mentions that Kyle's magic is covering the whole room. She adjusts her glasses and thinks that it's still going, this number it's unbelievable, and wonders just who is this boy. Suddenly, Kyle says that he found it, which confuses Eliza and Religia, and he further says that he found the correct door. After that, they all gather behind him as he reaches out to use magic. Religia asks if there's actually an entrance there, to which Eliza says it's true, there's a door right there. Kyle thinks about his master in his head, that he found the magic signature she left behind. He then tells Religia that the one who found the right entrance left their signature behind in order to revisit it later on. Religia calls that amazing and very romantic, while Kyle says that he's opening it. He then opens the door and they all walk down a sparkly path. Delia says the place is beautiful, while Eliza comments it's like utopia. Delia then asks the professor what those orbs are, to which she explains those are magic orbs that house different elements inside. At the end of the path, they reaches a door, to which Kyle says this is the third one, and Religia agrees. She says that if her investigation is correct, then what awaits them is a huge maze area. She states that the documents suggest this place is guarded by many strong monsters, and those who came this far disappeared without a trace, which scared Katie and Delia, while Eliza tells them to be extremely careful. After that, Sykes knocks on the wall and feels it, to which Eliza calls out to him. He explains that the walls are only made of marble, so there shouldn't be any problem, and asks Kyle what's on his side. To which Kyle replies that there sure are a lot of monsters, but the area is smaller than earlier. Suddenly, Eliza shouts in worry, and asks the two of them just what they are doing. Kyle tells her that they've made a plan of attack, which shocked her. Kyle explains that they went into this investigation with no information, but the existence of maze and monsters were confirmed, so they have decided what to do when facing them. Kyle announces that he knows the way out, as he tells Sykes to go that way, which shocked Eliza. Eliza then sees Sykes using his magic through the sword, and thinks that this boy's magic is increasing. At the same time, Religia asks them about their attack plan, and begs them to please tell her, while Katie shouts that it's dangerous over there. Eliza notices that Sykes' magic is being materialized, and then a giant fire spirit appear before her. Sykes announces that he's done, to which Kyle says that it's time for their combo. After that, Sykes casts Flame Saber and Kyle casts Hurricane along with it. The attacks then created a huge fire vortex, which breaks through the walls, which shocked everyone. Kyle then happily tells everyone to go to the next area, while Religia thinks it's amazing. This is her first time seeing this kind of magic. Meanwhile, at the deepest part, there is a dragon bound by the magic chains, who suddenly opens his eyes. Religia excitedly says that they are halfway through the maze, though this method is truly unprecedented. Kyle tells Sykes that he's great, to which Sykes says that he was just following Kyle's plan, as he never thought of using wind to empowering his fire. Kyle then happily announces to solve this puzzle together, while Katie thinks that if this goes on, she will be a dead weight for Kyle-sama. And just then, they suddenly gets hit by the wind of a huge tornado. Delia screams that he's going to be swept away, as he is clinging to Kyle, and Sykes says, it seems like there's magic in the wind. Religia thinks that according to the documents, this is the elemental area, but she can't feel anything aside from the wind elemental. She thinks that it should be called Tornado Area, while Delia says they can't advance with this going on. But Kyle tells everyone to not panic, as he casts Wind Wall in front of them. Delia comments that the wind stopped, while Religia tells Kyle that it's very impressive. And as they continue walking, Sykes calls Kyle from behind, to which Kyle asks him what is wrong. He tells Kyle that theoretically, One would use earth to fight against wind and asks Kyle to tell him if he can also use earth magic. Kyle gets nervous hearing that and asks how did he know about it, to which Sykes replies that the magic Kyle used at the magic forest light area. That's not just simply light magic, but a magic infused with earth magic, and asks if he is right. Kyle shouts that it's exactly as he said and mentions that he is so smart as he figured it out with just one look, to which Katie nervously thinks if that is true. She thinks about the fact that she didn't notice at all she is even more useless and realizes that she is truly dead weight for everyone. She then hears Kyle saying that he only uses wind because of a promise with his teacher. He tells Sykes that unless it's an emergency, he can only use wind to deal with the problem, to which Sykes mutter emergency in question, and Kyle replies with a yes, and adds, like when he is protecting his friends. Katie gets shocked hearing that, while Kyle continues that it's became quite an interesting test for himself, to which Sykes says that he should give himself some restrictions too, as it sounds interesting. But then he gets interrupted by Delia's scream. He shouts that there are bubbles flying under the cliff, which gets everyone's attention. After that, Kyle notices that the wind got stopped and cancel the barrier to check the surroundings. Religia looks around and asks what's with all the sudden changes, while Eliza quietly observes. She then notices something and asks her professor what is that. They notices a hand made off fire in the sky, to which Religia thinks that the wind magic has stopped and the bubbles of fire have come together. She wonders if the element changes with time, and realizes that this is the elemental area, and tells everyone that it's time to run. Suddenly, Sykes draws his sword as he thinks that fighting fire with fire isn't right, but he can try to push it backwards. But he got stunned by Katie, who came and tells him that her element is water, so she will fight it, and tells everyone to head for the exit. Sykes tells her not to do anything stupid, as even with the elemental advantage, the enemy is too big, but she says that she has to do this. She shouts that to protect her friends, she will defeat this enemy and casts water ball at the fire. The ball gets instantly evaporate by the fire, but she continue attacking it with the water magic. Sykes thinks that she doesn't have enough magic power, so he need to. But before he finishes, he is distracted by a hand on his shoulder. Meanwhile, Katie thinks she wants to be useful to everyone, to Kyle-sama, so she can always be besides that person. And then she attempts to cast water ball with full power, and looks down with a sad face. But just then, Kyle tells her that she shouldn't aim downwards like that. She can't hit it if she doesn't aim a bit upwards, while Katie gets shocked to see Kyle beside her. He then tells her to allow some of his magic to flow into her, as he pours some of it inside her body. Katie gets shocked to see this much power as her magic starts overflowing. Kyle tells her that he created a point for magic to circulate, so she should try to use her magic again, which makes her nervous. She hesitates to do it, but Kyle calls her name and tells her that there's an enormous amount of magic hidden deep in her and asks if she trusts him. She thinks about Kyle and replies with a yes. She says that she trusts him, while the others run for the exit, with Sykes thinking about Kyle saying, "Leave everything to Katie, if it's her, then they are okay," and wonders if Katie actually have what it takes. He then looks back and gets shocked to see something. He questions what is that giant water ball and wonders if that's her true power. At the same time, Katie focuses and casts water ball again, and the impact pushed her back. Kyle catches her on time, while everyone else gets stunned to see her magic. Kyle holds Katie as they watch the huge smoke cloud and tells her that she did it. To which Katie thinks, at that moment, Kyle's magic flow once again showed her a path and says yes to Kyle. Delia tells Katie that's amazing, while Religia thinks that even this little girl has this much magic. After that, Kyle tells everyone that the evaporated heat is coming, so they should run for the door, which makes Religia nervous. Eliza then pointed a door, telling Religia that it's the next one, to which she tells everyone to quickly get in. While everyone rushes through the door, Kyle looks back and sees the giant flame. He says that they should end it there, and then casts a water ball to extinguish the flame. Sensing danger for his friends, he lands a knockout, and the door clicks behind him. At the Dragon Seal 4th door, Eliza says that the atmosphere is so different here, to which Religia agrees, saying it's like an ancient ruin. Katie points that door is so cool, and asks if these statues will move, to which Eliza says that she doesn't see any traces of magic, so probably not. After that, Kyle tells the professor that for this place, but before he finishes saying that, he gets interrupted by Sykes, who calls out to Delia. Delia turns around and announces that he will be the vanguard from here on out. Everyone used so much magic to reach this point, so let him handle this time. Suddenly, the door opens itself and Delia asks if it's an automatic door. Behind the door are 10 giant statues, to which Delia gets scared. He calls out to Eliza, reminding her she said that these statues wouldn't move, to which she checks again. She then tells him that these actually will move, as they're filled to the brim with magic, which scared him even more. She tells Delia to get back, as it's dangerous, while Sykes asks what he is doing. Delia thinks of Katie's words from before, that she will fight, and told everyone to head for the exit. He then gathers his courage, and run while calling them stupid statues, to which Sykes asks what is he doing. Eliza nervously asks if he is also trying to be useful to everyone, while Delia attempts to dodge the statues. Sykes tells Kyle to stop Delia as it's too dangerous. Kyle thinks for a moment and tells Sykes that they shouldn't stop him. Instead, they should assist around him, which confuses Sykes. Kyle explains that Delia probably has his own plan, while Eliza tells the professor they should help this time, but she refuses. She tells her to let those kids cook, they should show more of their abilities, those that survived the magic forest. One of the statue then attacked Delia, but he dodged the attack and cryingly mentions that they are all headed his way. But just then, he stops to think that this is a good chance. It's unfortunate that he doesn't have magic talents like everyone else when it comes to solving a problem with magic, or defeating strong monsters. The things that Kyle's group can do, he could never. But if it's helping everyone, like how everyone does for him, then at least he can step out in front. The statue then strikes its spear at Delia, to which he places his hands on the ground. Delia then casts Earth Block, but it wasn't enough to stop the spear. The statue breaks through his Earth Block and launches at him with its spear, leaving him cowering in fear. Just then, someone casts Wind Nest, which stops the statue's movement. Kyle then instructs Sykes to go as he attacks from above and slashes the statue with his sword. After destroying the enemy, he praises Delia for doing a nice distraction, and Kyle tells him that little by little, he learned the merits of everyone, and that is what he is best at. Delia gets shocked to hear that he is good in something, while Sykes tells him to not lose focus. There's still a lot of enemies, and Kyle says that they will be counting on him. Kyle screams his name while running towards the other golems, to which Delia happily reply with a yes. Eliza and Raelsia gets impressed, and says that those kids are truly a perfectly united group, and that this is the best result of teamwork. Sykes then tells Kyle that the enemies are lined up, to which Kyle casts Wind Spear and commands it to pierce as he throws it forward. The spear breaks through all the enemy, which shocked everyone including Kyle's. Kyle stutters to say that they opened the next room this easy. As they continue walking, Delia says that he just blew a path to the next room and asks if that is even legal, to which Katie says they're heading that way anyway, so probably. Sykes adds that it sure took less effort this way, while Religia comments that hanging with these kids is such a once-in-a-lifetime experience. But then she notices something. Her attention is caught by a dark miasma overflowing, to which Kyle says that it's heading their way, and commands everyone to group up. He casts Wind Wall as the miasma surrounds the wind bubble. He then turns to Eliza and says that this much miasma means, to which she agrees, and tell him that there's no doubt about it. They are at the deepest part of the seal, the place where the dragon sleeps. But she says there's no records showing that there should be this much miasma, and Delia asks if that means. And before he finishes, Eliza tells them it means that the miasma produced by the dragon is growing larger every day, and tells everyone to be careful while heading up, while something catches Kyle's attention. He thinks that deep within this darkness there is light, as the dragon is chained up in front of them. Delia asks what that thing is, to which Kyle realizes that it's the sealed dragon. Sykes asks Kyle if their objective on this quest is to check if the seal is still working as intended, to which Kyle agrees. He says it's fine if the seal is still working, to which Delia asks really, as they can finally finish the investigation. Kyle says they can, but thinks that those magic chains hold such a great amount of magic power. If it was him or his master, he wonders if they would be able to escape if caught by them. Delia shouts they can finally go home, while Katie states it's surprising. Professor Religia is so quiet all of a sudden, to which Sykes says that she should be the loudest of all of them. Meanwhile, she stares at the center of the miasma, which catches Kyle's attention. He screams out her name, as Katie asks what she is doing, and Sykes tells her if she comes that close to the miasma, she will. Kyle shouts that they're coming, but Eliza darts ahead before him. She says that she'll pull her back and tells everyone to stay there. After that, she reaches out and calls Professor's name, but gets hit with a wind bomb. Everyone gets shocked seeing that and calls her name in worry. Just then, Regit appears while saying, just on time. Sykes shockingly calls his name and asks Professor Reget why is he there. Reget then casts flame arrow aiming at Eliza, to which Sykes screams at him in horror. But before the attack could harm Eliza, Kyle blocks the attack with wind wall, which surprised her. Reget angrily tells Kyle to get out of the way, as he doesn't have time for him, but in response, Kyle says that he's the one who should back off. Kyle tells him that he should know well just how strong he actually is, to which Reget says fine then, and launches an attack. He casts Flame Snake, but Kyle tells him that it won't work, and just as Kyle creates a shield to protect himself, Reget casts Wind Blow and Hurry. Kyle looks back and thinks Reget enhanced fire by using wind and targeted behind him. Katie calls out to Eliza in shock as Sykes watches in disbelief. But as the dust gets clear, they see a giant wind wall casted by Kyle, who managed to protect Eliza. He tells Reget that no matter how hard he tries, he's not getting through. Meanwhile, Katie thinks about Professor Reget and asks him to please tell them why he is attacking his students, to which Reget shockingly tells her to wait, as he's not. But before he finishes saying that, Eliza stands while calling out to Kyle and thanks him. Kyle asks if she is alright, to which she says yes and thanks him. She then menacingly shouts that she has reached her goal and stabs Kyle in the back with a dagger. Kyle gets shocked as she explains that with his help, she was able to bring Religia to the dragon. She says thanks a lot to Kyle and then goodbye to him. A sudden strike from Eliza leaves everyone in shock as they call out to Kyle in worry. Katie screams out to Kyle in worry as Sykes asks what's wrong, to which Reget tells them to not leave the protected area and mentions that if they inhale this much miasma, then they are as good as dead. Suddenly, Eliza starts laughing and says that her plan went way too well. Delia asks what is all this, to which Sykes tells him the answer is right there. He launches towards Eliza in full speed as Reget calls out to him. Sykes shouts that this woman is their enemy and swings his sword at her, but she easily dodges. She says that's the Sykes she knows, he is a very sharp one. But she asks if he will really be fine and points out that he just charged right into the miasma. But to her surprise, Sykes furiously charges at her again. She wonders what the hell is with this kid, he's too reckless, just like that Kyle. She thinks these kids are truly a dangerous variable to her plan, and then casts Shadow Bind on him. Sykes grits his teeth in frustration as Eliza tells him to stay there and let the swarm of miasma consume him. But just then, someone casts Fire Knife and manages to free Sykes. Eliza scoffs as Sykes is covered in an air bubble and someone tells him well done. Reget tells Sykes that he created an opportunity for them to save Kyle, as he is now getting healed by Katie's group. Reget adds, with what he just did, normally he will scold him, but he couldn't help them in that magic forest, they have suffered too much, to which Sykes calls his name in surprise. Reget tells him that from now on, he should leave everything to him, but Eliza announces that if he tries too hard in front of his students, then he might die, while Sykes asks who she actually is. Reget replies that the Academy learned about her a month ago, that out of all the students who have been accessing the Metallurgical Research Tower, there exists one student whose name isn't on the list. The principal ordered for a detainment, but after further research, that order was adjourned. Sykes utters adjourned in question, and asks what does that mean, to which Reget tells him the chances are that she's a member of the shadow-armed organization, Evening Star Vespero. Sykes repeats the word Vespero as Reget tells him that it's a high anti-aristocracy group and a criminal organization terrorizing many countries. Eliza chuckles and says that even the Academy has to bow in the presence of the Evening Star. But Reget tells her to not get it wrong, they just wanted some concrete proof, and adds that with these actions, she has shown her true colors. He then announces that the Academy will hereby eradicate her organization. But then Eliza hugs Religia and asks Reget what if she asks Mommy to lend her a hand. Reget screams at Religia to not listen to Eliza and to wake up, but she replies that she is finished. Eliza looks back with sinister smile, to which Reget scaredly wonders if it's the unsealing magic. He shouts at Religia to stop this instance as Sykes sees that the magic circles are entering the dragon. He points out that the dragon is absorbing the miasma, while Reget asks what kind of idiocy is this and if she's betraying the Academy, to which Sykes says that if she's a traitor, then there must be a bind of sorts between her and Eliza, which gets Reget attention. He nervously looks at Sykes and asks what does he mean by that. Meanwhile, Religia gets up and asks where is she in confusion. Eliza then quickly hugs her and says that thanks to her, she finally got her wish fulfilled, to which Religia says that she doesn't really get what's going on, but it's good for her. Eliza adds that as a thank you, she'll return what's most important to her as she reaches to her with both hands. But Sykes tells her to hold on and ask Reget if Professor Religia has been lying to them all along. To which Reget refuses, telling him that the academy has considered that, so they're very strict on investigating every teacher's background. But for the last 10 years, it's proven that Professor Religia has never adopted a child, nor shown signs of living with one. Sykes says it's impossible, and mentions if that is so, then Professor Religia. And before he finishes, Reget tells him they can only imagine that she got her memory manipulated. Meanwhile, Religia asks Eliza what is this, to which Eliza says that in dark magic, there exists an amazing spell to override a memory. The truth is that she and her only met 2 months ago, as she recalls telling Religia that it's nice to meet her, so please take care of her from now on. Religia confusingly mentions the overwritten memory in question, and asks if she's kidding. She says that the two of them are like a family, to which Eliza questions the word family. A mom who only knows how to dive headfirst into research, a mom who never talks to anyone, a mom that every student and teacher thinks of as a weirdo. She tells Religia that the likes of her dares to call herself her mother. For her it must have been a wonderful dream. But does she know what it was for her, and announces that it was a damn nightmare. Religia's memory shatters hearing that, and then suddenly, a large explosion erupts. Katie and Delia look back in horror to see the broken chains, while Sykes and Reget nervously says that the dragon seal is broken. And then, the dragon reveals itself as Kyle opens his eyes in confusion.